Good evening again, once more here to our broadcast. We'd like to welcome all of you, wherever you are, you viewers. Tonight conversation going to be a great one. It's anticipated that the Minister of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism, Republic of Liberia, will be our guest here tonight. As you and I know, we sent out a promo for this broadcast, and we said that Minister Ledgerhood Julius Rennie has agreed to appear here in the issues room to discuss the contemporary issues trending in the country. We'll look at the ministry's relationship with the media, the government's preparedness of the national elections in the country. We'll also be looking at the rule of law. The minister is the chief spokesman of the Liberian government. He'll come here to discuss the gains and challenges the government faces. So it's our anticipation that he'll be here tonight. We have to start the broadcast in anticipation he'll be here. So again, I'd like to welcome you on Volcano Shelton here in the issues room, the 134th edition, and no other person in the studio with me but Moses Sandy, who is on the other side. Moses, welcome to our 134th edition. Tonight conversation is expected to be a grandeur, and I use the word grandeur because we have the chief spokesman of the Liberian government. In anticipation he'll be here momentarily. How do you feel on your end?
Well, I feel good as always, and like you said, tonight is a special podcast because we're going to be having the Liberian government chief spokesman, Lejehu Rene, will having to be a colleague, a friend, a brother. So it's like this war like it's going to be a homecoming,
It's just like a media conversation.
Yeah, media conversation.
Nothing, no hard wiring here tonight. It's all about the camaraderie. We're
Yeah,
gonna be discussing in an atmosphere of camaraderie.
yeah, we're gonna be rubbing shoulders as friends at the same time delving into the national
But we're still
issues
gonna
of
hold
the
a foot
day.
to the fire, though, as necessary.
Yeah,
But you know what, Moses, interestingly, Ledger, who knows how to hold his ground, he's very eloquent. He understands the politicking in Liberia, so I'm sure he's able to make his case here tonight and make rather the case for the Liberian government. So it would be a great conversation. We just spoke with him behind the scene. He's prepping.
yeah,
Liberia is still not up there yet, even though Ellen says she brought fiber optic internet system, but there's still, little things happening, with connectivity, gadgets, and all of that. So let's hope that he gets that resolved and join us tonight. Well,
Eh,
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I
man.
was going to say while we buy time for his appearance, I just quickly like to say we're here Tuesdays and Fridays. We'd like to welcome all of you. Thomas Awaji, Ferjamon you. Thanks for joining us. Please encourage others to join us here tonight. This is unprecedented to have this chief spokesman at this crucial time. You know what's trending in the country. So many things happening. I'm sure he's poised to discuss these issues here with us tonight. He's more informed rather than hearsay. So again, it's our hope that he joins us at some point.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And there is a show that wherever you are, and we can let me tell our people to just help us by sharing the link. Wherever you are, you want to make it to the issues run tonight. You want to hear from the horse's mouth. Minister Rennie is going to speak to those contemporary issues in Liberia tonight. You can afford to miss this podcast. Invite your friends. Invite your friends. Invite your friends.
I think the relevance here is sometimes I think that people get drawn to other things, and interestingly, what I find is that sometimes people don't really know what they want. And again, too many podcasts out here today, the proliferation of a one-man show, the proliferation of, you know, cell phone televisions, I'll call them cell phone radio stations, it kind of muddies the water. And so a lot of people have competing priorities as to what they want to hear, what they want to listen to. But nevertheless, the broadcast will be here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and so forth. So, irrespective of the crowd tonight, what I'm concerned with is the congruence of the minister, the honesty of the conversation, uh, and what we able to give back to the Liberian people with regards to enlightenment. If he makes the case for the Liberian government, great. That's what it's about. He represents the government. He represents the people of Liberia. So I will anticipate nothing but the honest truth, from the minister, and let the people discern as per what they hear from him and how this conversation plays out.
Yeah, and while we are with the minister to come in, Volcano, let me ask you this question. Because you have a serious, understanding of theology. You also have a background in theology. So the other day I ran into a colleague, and the guy put it to me. He said, Moses, let me ask you a question. There are a lot of people who believe that for the fact that we are, doing these talk shows, they think that we have a profound understanding of almost every subject matter. So this guy asked me, do churches, do say a quarterly report, or do they make financial report to their congregations? Is it necessary to do so, or is it that you just pay your offering, you pay your tithe, you walk away, you don't care what happens to that money? And help us, as somebody with a profound understanding, because that was the question that I really struggle answering. Yes, I do read the Bible, but I don't think I am at the level I wish you are. So I want you to help our people tonight, whether it is something that is required by churches to report to their congregations in terms of how much is being raised and how that money is being utilized.
Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. That's why we have business meetings in churches that are really grassroots, meaning when I say grassroots, meaning founded on the principle of service to God. We have to give account. This is where the accountability is. That's why we have the board of trustees. The term trustees managing the money, you know. So as a result, yes, there must be business meetings. There must be report to the congregation, and those who are paying the tithes and the dues to other departments and stuff. All that monies must be accounted for. Now, monies that are put in the plate as offering, yes, they must calculate that money. All right, outside of tithes, because sometimes people will drop the tithe envelope in the plate, but it's in an envelope. You don't put your tithe as cash, because then it doesn't go to tithe, it goes to offering. But you put your money in an envelope. The churches create envelopes for tithes and for offerings. So when you put your tithe is that amount that you comfortable paying as per what God blesses you with. uh some churches, including mine, the Ethel Baptist Church, we have a book where it's recorded, and you can reconcile your book with the secretary, financial secretary, who's collecting your payment, and that goes in your book, and that goes in the church's record book. So there's a way to manage, I mean, rather to account for all of the monies given to God. Now, anyone who thinks that, okay, put your tithe in and that is left with you and your God, you just put the money in. Don't you shouldn't care where it's spent, who spent
Yeah.
it, or is you giving to God. No, I don't give physical cash to God. I give prayers to God. But if I'm giving physical cash for the enhancement of his work on earth, then it has to be accounted for, because that's what he wants the church to do, to use those monies for the intended purpose. And how do you account for, I mean, how do you not account for the money if you're using it for the intended purpose? When you're using it for the intended purpose, then you will account for it. If you're not using it for the intended purpose to enhance God's work on earth, then interestingly, you wouldn't be able to account for it. So every church must have a financial record and must be able to present statements to its congregation, how much it drew in for that year, how much it's spending, how many tithes were collected, the offerings, the different offerings on the different Sundays, and all those things. They're very critical, because that's why people leave churches. When you have no financial integrity in the church, then I don't know why you're there. Don't be under the influence that you're giving to God. No, You see your pastor riding a brand new car. You see your pastor wearing coat suits while trying to be meager in terms of how you dress because you're taking your monies to give to God. You can see the lavish lifestyle of some of your pastors. And what do they say? Oh, no, you know what? I wrote a book and I sold a book. That's where my money coming from. Preposterous. I say this, serving God is the hardest thing that we can do, but it comes with, honestly, it comes with so much sacrifice. And to understand it, there must be that connection. And there's no way around it. Churches must make report. Any church that is not making report, because remember, Moses, the churches are non-profit organization. That's why they're tax exempt. And so, yes, it's increasingly important for the monies collected to be accounted for.
Thanks very much for the education, and I hope that some of our church leaders and other churchgoers listening to us this evening, have learned something from your presentation. Because when the gentleman asked me that question, coming from the perspective of leadership, I said to myself, I think churches are institutions and they should be under obligation to tell their contributors, their congregations, how much they raise, what the money is being used for. But again, I was not too definitive because, when it comes to religion, our church leader said in turn, they say, you don't know what you're talking about. That's why I thought to put it to you
But
because you
absolutely,
have a
you know
good
what you're
understanding.
talking
Yeah.
about because no
Yeah.
one will just give the money lavishly, or loosely. I mean,
Okay.
irrespective of you committing that money to God, you want to ensure that the money is being used for the purpose of enhancing God's work on earth. Again, as I
I
said,
agree.
I don't go in my room and pray and then the money disappear and go to heaven. That way, then I know it's directly going to God. But if it's going to go through a man like myself, irrespective of you being a religious man, you're still not perfect. You're still not perfect, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. So then, for you to be so transparent is critical. It's critical in pastoral leadership. It's critical in being a deacon, being the finance officer of the church. Those are the places you don't want to play, because honestly, you can mess with many things. Don't mess with God money. The money that is intended for God's work must be used for God's work. That is why it's encouraged in many of the growing churches that the pastor have a full-time job. Now, if the pastor decides to make pastoralship his full-time job, then the church has that obligation to pay him based on what they're able to pay him. So you want to tell me the church not supposed to tell the congregation, hey, the pastor makes $40,000. We got to raise that money to pay the pastor? Yes. So if we want to know how much the pastor's salary is for us to raise the money to pay the pastor, then it's also necessary for us to know all other things where the monies are going.
Absolutely. I
Yes.
agree with you.
And
I
so
agree.
that's critical.
And
Every money collected in the church, every money, donations whatsoever, extra excess given by other philanthropists, big people in the country, you must present it to the
to the
congregation.
congregation, okay.
That's the integrity God speaks of, the financial integrity that God speaks of.
And I think another good thing about reporting to your congregation is that our surmise of Volcano is that it encourages people to contribute,
When you are
willingly.
transparent, yeah,
Yeah, when you're transparent, they say, "Oh, our money is being used to finance this, is being used for that." But if everything is done in secrecy, then uncertainty set in. People begin to ask questions. But what is happening here? Every
yeah,
time they come to us, they tell us, say, "Oh, well, we need some money to pay our rent. We need some money for this other program. We need money for that other program." But they are not telling us how much they are raising and how that money is being utilized. You see, so
yeah, yeah.
I agree with you
And,
100%.
and, and honestly, Moses, in hope that Minister Rennie would join us at some point. Um, there's no way around it. And any those small sprout up churches, people are splintering, churches, they form churches and they break away and they forming their own church. What's the connotation behind it? What's the purpose? because you can serve God in your capacity wherever you sit right now, Moses. You can have that fellowship with God. So when you break away from a church to start another church,
Hmm.
that means that you are not you have another motive.
Of course.
And the first thing, you came together to form this church, and so if you can reconcile your differences as members or as founders, and that you
Then
have to
something is
break
not
away,
right. Then
then
something
yeah,
is not right.
if you have to break away to form another church, then I want to question your relationship with the purpose. I mean, the higher purpose, meaning with God,
Yeah.
because you must be able to reconcile your differences rather than break away to factionize a church. Because
Yeah.
the church is the foundation for which we survive. For those of us who have, that religious belief, if the church crumbles, then where do we stand? Where do we stand? The church is even the foundation for the nation. And that is
Absolutely.
why I have a problem when I see pastors are compromising with politicians, all because of extra favors. You don't need earthly favors. The favors God have for you is even more than what a man can give you. There's no trillion zillion dollars on this earth that is more than God. So the church should be the foundation for the nation, or religion should be the foundation for the nation. Particularly in the case of our country, Liberia, that we've claimed to be formed on Christian principle. Our churches should not be in the bed with politicians. Our churches should not be in the bed with leadership. That is why sometimes it seems very, very flimsy for President Weah to take to the pulpit, even though he says, I'm not a pastor. He declares, I'm not a pastor, but he's trying to be a pastor.
Yeah. I think that's what they
So that's
call
a
playing
disconnect.
God, right?
Oh yeah, that's. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not going to question his relationship with God, but I'm just talking about the optics of it and how does it present.
Hmm.
You know, yes. We've had pastors who were president. William R. Tolbert was an ordained Baptist minister. In fact, he was the first black man to serve as the president of the Baptist World Alliance.
Yeah.
So he was an ordained. He was a reverend ordained. Vice President Benny Warner.
Benny Warner, yeah.
Uh,
Liberians always had
yeah,
religious leaders.
yeah. So
Is the minister in the background now?
not yet. I don't see him.
Okay. All right. So while we are with him, from your end, what do you have to contribute
Well, in the
temporarily?
meantime, I saw what's the guy's name? Arthur Johnson, Councillor Arthur Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
He's like the Johnny Cochran of the time now in Liberia. He's representing Jefferson Koji. He had a press conference today. Three key areas he talked about
Mm-hmm.
is the loose statement by Jerome Verdier.
Yeah.
Uh, then Heron Costa, he claimed, put a post out saying that Jefferson Koji is the most dangerous man in Liberia, and he employs the opposition to do something about it. And then someone commented by the name of, he said Genesis, Ambassador Genesis.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He's a former
Terry,
official
Terry,
of
yeah,
Terry
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 Genesis.
Genesis. Yeah.
He
Mm-hmm.
also made a comment, and one of the folks who were on the podcast or the clippings also said that what else should be done? Should Jefferson uh, put the
Cool.
ECOMOG, not ECOMOG, ECOWAS,
ECOWAS.
the ECOWAS ambassador 6 feet under before the international community step in? So he finds all of those, wild statement. He thinks it derails the peace and serenity in the country, and there's a potential that these kinds of statements can lead to the dark days, the days before the war. And he mentioned, that the generation from the 1990 to now really don't clearly understand the war, but people who were there and borne the brunt of the war, can attest to what it was. And we should do everything to protect our democracy, not to go back to the war. And so they are writing the international community, they're sending letters. He also called on the chief prosecutor, the minister of justice, to look into these things because they're not going to take it ordinary. He thinks that his client shouldn't have to go through all of these kinds of social media threat. And he talked about the power of social media and that Liberia does not have a social media law as it is. He claimed that all of the countries in the sub-region outside of Liberia have laws, uh, for social media posts and on and there must be a law, uh, you know, to have to deal with some of us, and I say us because we're on social media,
Yeah,
who
yeah,
may
because
not, who may go outside of what we should say, that has a propensity to raise alarm or to light fire, you know that kind of stuff. So those was the things he were talking about when he met the media.
I, w- I would actually disagree with the counselor to say that Liberia does not have laws that control what is posted or what is said, online. Constitutionally, there are laws in the country that protect free speech, and those laws also say that free speech, press freedom, come along with social responsibility, meaning that for the fact that you have that freedom to publish, to broadcast, to have a podcast, that doesn't mean that you should, go about causing national security crisis or causing instability in any country. If you do that, you can be held liable. People can be sued for slander. That is, if I came on this podcast and decide to say something that draw your integrity into questions in the absence of evidence to support what I'm saying, you can file a defamation lawsuit against me.
But I think he's looking at proximity. He's looking at you being here and they being in Liberia. So
Oh,
where does
uh-huh.
that accountability really, comes in, and how is that litigation going to look like? Are they going to be suing you in an American court? Do they have they were getting visa to Kanye to sue you? You know that kind of stuff. So I think the fact here is that the thing that you can easily see things here and get away with it because you're not on the grounds. If you are on the grounds, it's a different situation. So I think that's maybe it's the perspective from who she speaks, but I'm not sure. I'm just assuming that uh, that could
but
be the
I,
reason. But do me a
I
favor. Can you text the minister again and see if
uh
he's
yeah,
making effort?
let me mute myself.
Okay, I'll
Let me
just put
mute
you
myself and,
backstage. I'll put
yeah,
you
put me
backstage.
backstage. Let me
Yeah,
call.
yeah, yeah. So right now we'd like to welcome Thomas Awaji, Rachel Hammer, Flomo Livingston, Mapu Hall. Good seeing all of you guys. Romeo Nabil. We're looking forward to Minister Rainey coming on. He was very committed. So I'm not sure what could be the reason for this delay. He says that he was trying to get his gadget together. Godwin Weirdo, it's good to see you, my brother. Welcome. It's been a while. Good to see you back. Amy Bachu, Maria Gardel, it's been a while. Thanks for joining us tonight. Fergie Monu, good that you could make it here. We're looking forward to this conversation, honestly, and we're all poised to have this conversation with Minister Rainey. You and I know that over the last several weeks, a whole lot has been happening in the country, and no better time and no better person to really come and make the case and address some of these things. Um, we're looking forward to a very, very somber conversation, something that, we could have uh, talk about to enlighten our people on all sides, whether opposition or whether incumbent. Because at the end of the day, Liberia is number one. Anyone who thinks here tonight that the divisiveness hurts you and myself, no, it hurts the country. It hurts the country and it hurts the generation yet to come. And that is why we must do everything humanly possible to unite our country, to reconcile our differences, and to be one country. Because listen, if even the minister doesn't come tonight, there's a lot of things we can talk about. Honestly, we can talk about. As I'm speaking to you right now, what is my thought process? My thought process is telling me that in our country today, because of the lack of the rule of law and the zenith of corruption in the country, we are losing our country by the day. And not just the country in the context of the country. I'm talking about our resources. We have so many booger stuff going on in the country that what would be left for the young people to come and have a country, I doubt what would be left. And so it is scary. It is absolutely scary. I'll give you an example. Thomas Awaji is from Caldwell. The St. Paul River wraps that belt. Today, all of the construction going on in the country, or majority, let me put it that way, majority of the construction going on in the country, they are dredging the sand from the St. Paul River. Dredging the sand from the St. Paul River. Who's benefiting? The Chinese. The Chinese. You go to the Shuffling River, which is the Do River, on the Robertsfield Highway, they're dredging the sand from that river. So do you know what's happening? The riverbed is deepening. The riverbed is deepening. So it changes the ecosystem of our rivers. But what does it do? It provides flooding just in case, because sometimes it is good for the river to be natural in its environmental structure. But when you are dredging and digging and carrying on, let me see if Moses is ready. When you are you ready, Moses?
Yeah.
Let me just give you my thought.
Yeah.
When,
Go ahead.
when you are dredging and doing all of this, it creates the possibility for overflooding. And remember, a lot of our folks are living on the edges of those rivers. They are, I'll call them swamp villages, swamp neighborhoods and stuff, and it's dangerous. But let me add this point. Right at the bridge that crosses over the Shuffling Dew River, that bridge, the piles, or what you call the pillars of that bridge, if you're dredging the sand from the river, and where they're dredging the sand from is less than probably 300 to 400 or 500 feet away. So as you dredge the sand, you are undermining the pillars
Of
of the
course.
bridge
Yeah. Yeah.
because you're taking away the cushion.
Yeah.
So as a result, the bridge now is rocking. I'll be
Run the
honest,
risk of collapsing.
when you're
Yeah.
climbing on the bridge from either side, it's like you're going through a gap because the bridge now is disconnected.
Yeah.
It's disconnected. And the people have not seen it. You have a public works minister who don't know her own budget. You have a public works minister who could not clearly define her role. But this is what you get. So, irrespective of the minister coming tonight, there are so many things we can talk about, Moses. And it bothers me that we're losing our country day by day. And what happens here? The foreigners are getting rich and richer while our people remain poor and poor. And the few people who should be advocating for them, let me tell you something before you come in, Moses.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No criminal, no one with criminal intent, no one with no good intent, no one who is corrupt to the core should ever enter the legislature. No
I
one,
agree.
no one. The people who should be in the legislature should depend on their salary and should be big at advocacy for the citizens. Those are the kinds of people. So people who are going to be voting 2023, don't vote people who want to come in for themselves. Because if we have a strong legislature, our country will not be in the hands of foreigners. And this stuff is depressing, it's sad, it saddens me and it pains me that our country is slipping away from our hands and the foreigners are getting rich and richer while people remain in poverty, in indigent conditions, and it just saddens me. And the few who are there who think they're getting rich and getting money, at the end of the day, if the country is no more, I don't know where they're going to go with that.
I agree with you. And I would even like to add on, coming to the legislature, right? I would say that our people need to raise the bar a little bit in terms of who qualifies to go in the legislature or that. In terms of education, I would propose the minimum of a bachelor's degree. Someone would say, well, there are other guys in the Senate or in the legislature that are doing extremely well, but are not at the level of college graduates. Yes, but we must set a standard. I'm saying that we should set a standard that the minimum be, a bachelor's degree, because anyone with a bachelor's degree, I'm not talking about these online universities. I'm talking about someone who rather, goes through, or someone who rather went through the rigorous process of obtaining a bachelor's degree. When you have those kind of people in the legislature, people who have the ability to read and understand what they read, the legislature will be able to perform to some extent.
So
There
Moses,
should be, yeah,
I know you want to make that point, but I would disagree with you, and I would disagree with you uh,
yeah,
from the perspective that some of us were already professionals,
hmm
only out of high school, intelligently professionals working at LBS and holding our own.
hmm
It boils down to your foundation, Moses. If you make a bachelor's degree, the purpose, and you talk about the rigorous, you don't
hmm
have rigorous in Liberia again. You had rigorous. You don't have rigorous. So you really can make a bachelor's degree to be the purpose for which one goes into the house. A person who is literate can read and write. Jesse Conley didn't have a bachelor's degree when he was
Director
director
General,
of yes, no, he didn't. Tommy Rees never had a bachelor's degree. But those were so it depended on the time that people went to school and what they were able to acquire. So I'm just trying to throw it out there, because in the issue of the, even right here in this country, you have people who are sitting in the Senate and in the House who don't have degrees. I can tell you for a case study. I did my master's in Wichita, Kansas, in public administration. So one of my project, I had to interview a legislature. I mean,
a
it's a
legislator.
legislator,
hmm
a member of the legislature. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah,
And this legislator only had a high school, but when you say sharp, understood the issues. So I'm just saying this just to share my point,
yeah,
because if you're looking for rigorous bachelors, it's not in Liberia.
yeah. I agree with you. But I'm coming from the standpoint of Volcano.
And I
Before,
know, I know you're
yeah,
coming from the
I call
standpoint
the
that at least a
legislature.
bachelor's degree gives you the opportunity to have
Yeah,
some kind of quality education, to be able to read and write and understand what you're reading and writing, and all of that. I got you. But if you're looking at it in the Liberian context, then you got to go back to before the war.
yeah. But the point I was trying to make, right? I covered the legislature before I came to the United States. Volcano in the legislature, there were lawmakers, there were legislators that went to session unprepared. There were legislators, there were senators, there were representatives who did not know the issues of the day, because they never read, they had limited understanding of the issues. And you know what they did? If any of them knew that Volcano's Shelton is a smart guy and an issue came on the floor, whether that issue is against the interest of the district or the county from which that person comes from, but Volcano Shelton is supporting that. Is supporting that petition, or is supporting or that bill. When it was a time to vote, they sat back and observed. If Volcano raised his hand, say I am in favor, every one of them went that way. As a result, what happens? All the districts, all the counties that those people represented, they were what? Misrepresented, because the father, Volcano Shelton will have a different opinion on the subject matter, or who supported it. Maybe he supported it because he had his own objective. That's the problem in the legislature. We have a lot of people in the legislature that are functionally illiterate. That's one of the reasons why our legislature remains compromised.
And they just go there for what they can get.
Yes,
That's the point I'm making.
yeah,
The only branch of government that can save Liberia is the legislature.
yes,
The legislature is the only branch of government. Even after we are, even if Waka got there, even if Cummings got there, even if Gonglo got there, even myself who intending to run because I ain't late yet. I want to run, Moses.
yeah.
Yeah,
We
I'm
can
tired of
support
waiting.
you. Yeah, yeah. We can
All right.
support you. Mhm.
But honestly, right? It it's just the legislature that we need to really, really, hopefully can have the right kinds of people in there who will really look up for the Liberian people. Because Moses, I'm afraid you haven't gone to Liberia, but I've been there since 2009. We are losing our country to foreigners. Moses, the Nigerians are in the country, and not to say in a bad way, but what are they doing there? Bringing drugs? A lot of them. A lot of them. We've seen the videos. The other guy said he had a tailor shop, but what was he selling? Expired energy drink.
Wow.
If you remember the Inspector General from Commerce, that Josephine Davis lady,
Yeah,
and
Josephine.
and
Yeah,
where the guy who was Deputy Wisner.
yeah.
So this man got tailor shop in front, but behind there he got
That
all the
drinks.
expired energy drink, and the people, poor people, just drinking it because you know what they did? They changed the label.
Yeah, man.
They changed the label on the drink. So this
Indirectly,
man is getting wealthy while people are dying.
people are dying. And what did they do to that man,
Oh,
Volcano?
man, at the end of the day, the man look confident. The
Oh
man look
my
confident.
God.
Nobody put that
Amen.
sign in your ear. The first thing they say, the
Amen.
man look confident. But listen. You've seen some of the videos, and when I see some of those videos, I throw it on the TI room page.
Yeah.
People are saying some of the very zogos we're talking about here are saying, listen, I don't want to do drugs no more. But there's no way if the Nigerians still bringing it. There's no way. There's no way if the Nigerians are still bringing the drugs in the country or the foreigners are bringing the drugs in the country. There's no way. So you got when a place is leaking, what do? You stop the leak.
Of course.
Then before you wipe the water.
Mhm.
Moses, you don't wipe the water before stopping
You
the
got to
leak.
stop the leak first.
So this is where we're failing. The DEA is underfunded. The national security is underfunded. So imagine if the DEA catches, my man, all the drugs you see them burning
But,
the other day. I think that look like flow show. The real
but
drugs
look,
on the market, man.
I love
That tussle
Volcano,
tussle.
right? You talk about the drug enforcement being on agency being underfunded. Do you know how much they allocated for the agency in the 2023 national budget? $2 million.
But the drug cartel can bribe more than even $10 million if the guy goes against the wall. So
Man,
that's 5 times the budget
yeah,
of the whole DEA. And
yeah,
within the DEA, when I take that $10 million,
of
they say
course.
go kill our people.
But
But
man,
that's what happened in Moses.
you
You gotta,
have,
you gotta address the drug epidemic. You gotta address the sources that bring in the drugs
and then
before
we
they
need to
deal
have
with the people.
stiffer laws.
Yeah, before you deal with the people.
Yeah,
It's sad.
you know.
It's sad. So we're losing our country day by day.
But hey, Volcano, I think we have waited enough. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
we should go ahead when the minister comes, or he can join the discussion. So I will propose that we begin by talking about the most contemporary issue of today.
Moses, these
Uh,
are the contemporary issues. There's no proposition. Just introduce and
yeah.
let's talk. Yeah.
So let's take a closer look at what is happening with the former Chief Justice Gloria Scott, the brutal murder of her son, I mean of her daughter, Shallow, and the whole how this case is being handled at the level of the CDC,
Mhm.
at the level of the police, at the level of the Ministry of Justice. Before I came to this podcast, I was listening to a podcast on Facebook, and the person who did the podcast is a daughter of the former Chief Justice. And this lady said, even before listening to her, this thing is already in the public domain. The Scott family went to St. Moses funeral party where Charlotte remains is currently deposited at. Before going there, the government, when she died, the government sent people over, they issue a death certificate and they gave the family the go ahead to take, to take delivery of the body. The body was taken to St. Moses funeral parlor. After that, the family went to St. Moses last weekend to say, hey, we want to see the remain, to see what's going on. And Mr. Moses and Wisworth were having to be the owner of the funeral parlor, wasn't available. But according to the former Chief Justice daughter, he placed a phone call and told the former Chief Justice that as per directive, reported directive from the Minister of Justice, Musa Dames, and the Director of Police, the funeral parlor was advised not to allow the family to have access to the remains of the late Charlotte. In fact, what the young lady reported this evening, the government has already started an autopsy. Now, let's look at the rights here. There's what we call the right to self-determination, meaning that if anything, if everyone has the right to decide what happens, the future, right? If a relative of yours is taken for treatment, a consent has to be given if that person lacks the ability to make that decision. Like in this case, this lady is dead. So who do you turn to? The next of kin. So you cannot perform an autopsy without the approval of the family. But the family is now complaining that the Liberian government has initiated an autopsy. What is the purpose of this autopsy? The whole question about autopsy came in when the chairman of the ruling CDC, Moba Molu, accused the former Chief Justice of being aware of what led to his daughter's death. He accused the woman of engaging into ritualistic killing. So you come, you ask for autopsy as a ruling party, then the government say, yes, we want autopsy. You prevent the lady, you prevent the family from having access to the remains of their daughter. Where are we, Volcano? Where is the rule of law in today's Liberia?
Well, as it is, the minister has shown up here
Good.
on the stage. Let me. I see he's still trying to play with his microphone. Let me
Oh,
hope
man,
that the smile
Minister
on his
Rennie,
every. Hold
Minister
on.
Rennie
Let
is
me
a
bring him
career
in, Mr.
broadcaster.
Minister.
Can you guys hear me,
My
gentlemen?
man, let you hear you, my
Absolutely,
man.
man. Listen, my dear brother,
My man,
my own brother.
I'm sorry.
I know, I know,
Mr. Minister, my man, you gotta pay for
The
it, my
great
man.
V.
I know.
No, I got to pay fine. Not just to you people, but your many listeners across the world.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I've been
absolutely. Yeah,
struggling.
good, man.
thank you.
You know, this is Africa, and the technological world
I said it. I
is
said it.
difficult.
But Leggy, I was in a conversation. I say the chief spokesman of the government should never be struggling for gadget, for minutes, for data, for all the things. How do you do your
But,
work?
but man, let me tell you something. It's not about the government business. I know chiefs was talking the government. The simple thing, and let
Yeah,
me say this, but just the onus is on me.
I know.
I
Yeah,
set up,
okay.
I set up all my stuff here,
Yeah, because
and I
you told me,
came.
you said, but me, I set
Yeah,
up.
I'm set up. Trust me. And I came back but
Yeah.
technology fails people
All the time.
because
You're right about that. You're right.
this what you see here, so it's a new setup
Oh wow.
to give me an
That's good.
opportunity of broadcasting to aid. You see me with a microphone before my hair. As if I do, I in studio and all that kind of stuff. I
Yeah,
just said
Okay.
I was set up
Good.
for these kinds of reasons,
yeah,
and
you're
this
Yeah.
is
right.
my first time. This is my
Using it.
first time
Okay.
using them,
Okay.
so I'm learning by the two.
No, my man, no
And
problem, Legend. No
and so,
So,
problem.
Legend,
gentlemen,
thanks, man. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation to be here for the first time in the issues room. My brother, I know you've kind of maybe listened to us at some point. Uh, Whatever it is, we're only in the interest of our country, and I'm sure you are. Irrespective of your role as a Liberian, the most important thing is that our country thrive, remains at peace, and that no matter the circumstance, that's the only place we have. And I think all of us on this platform tonight, including our viewership, can agree with that. So we'd like to welcome you. This conversation going to be one of camaraderie. We're going to treat you like brother, but we're going to hold your foot to the fire. Let me just tell you that.
no worries, gentlemen. I'm on the
Thank
other
you.
Yeah.
side of the microphone this time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so
Thank you.
I and so let me say thank you to Volcano. I was
Yeah.
telling Moses behind the scene, I said I didn't hear from my brother for quite a while.
I know.
Because
I know.
I
Hey, listen.
call him Mexican fajitas. So you know the story.
Yeah, it's been a long time, man. It's
Yeah.
been a
It's been
long
It's
a
been
time.
a
while,
long time.
Legend.
It's been a long time coming. Actually, it's been a long time coming. And I hope I'm not much over modulating.
No,
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 you're
you're
okay.
Uh,
nice
No,
and smooth.
it's good. It's
It's
good.
smooth.
It's
yeah,
good.
All right, so
so let's set
But
the ball rolling, gentlemen.
yeah, we
yo,
tell the
no,
folks.
avocado, please, let me just say, Mr. Minister, man, look, for me, I miss you from the newsroom, man. Legend. You're a very good
My
newscaster, you boy. I enjoy you.
my son missed my son missed the radio. I miss the radio a lot, but
Man,
you
you're a
have to
good
move on in
newscaster,
life.
Legend.
Moses, you edited well at LBS. And I
Thank you.
know, and let me say to the public, Moses and I have had differences at different levels,
Yeah, thank
but I
you.
respect him and he respects me.
Yeah,
And that
thank
is
you.
why the conversation should be that way. It's not about the
Yeah,
personality, but the issues. So when he
Absolutely,
reached out to me with certain things, he said to me, "See, my man," I said, "Okay, let's have this conversation for the greater public to understand where
yeah,
we are as a government and some of the things I believe that have been permeating the international, social media landscape, so to speak. Because your program is not rebroadcast, as far as I know, on a
yeah.
local frequency in Liberia.
No.
But let's talk about
we,
the
we
issues
started
because I
that. We
believe that
started that
it's
with
important,
we started that with ABC Radio, but then
which
our
is good.
previous page got hacked, and so we just lost contact with everything. But it's part of the plan
Yeah,
to
to
do
say.
that. But again, thank you so
So
much. Let's start the conversation tonight. Uh, so many things has happened in the country over the last several weeks to now. But before we get to that, we just want to understand uh, your current role at the Ministry of Information. We know you're the minister. You were appointed by the government. You've been in that role probably a little over 3 to 4 years, or maybe if not close to five. Uh, how has it been? Because there's a lot of things coming out of that ministry, low salaries from employees who were protesting. There was news that Ledger, who is a loggerhead with the president, or the president not seeing speaking to him. All of those kinds of things. You're the best person to explain where are you now in your role as the minister and speaking for the government. Let's start from there.
V, and I like to call you V because I want to make it chatty,
Yeah, man,
so
like a
that we
Chatty, and
brother.
understand
how
each
long
other's
we've
role.
Yeah,
been
Yeah,
brothers. You're right.
yeah.
yeah, girl, yeah, yeah. I actually took over the ministry. I got appointed on the 1st of October 2020. Uh, having spent all the rest of my years in 29 from 2010 to 2018
23.
and 2020. I spent at least for the good part of my years 10 years at LBS. Deputy Director General, and then coming on to to the Ministry of Information as a minister. Then proper at 2020 when the president celebrated his birthday in October, and surprisingly appointed me a Minister of Information. I got confirmed, I think, about 2 weeks later, and I took on the mantle. So technically, I've been there 2 years. This is my third year running as the administration winds down to elections. So we've been trying to pedal the canoe, so to speak, proverbially, in a way that you keep it afloat. Yeah, I don't want to say that it all's been rosy because it hasn't been. But the truth
Yeah.
of the matter is, when you work in government, there are multiplicity of interests, and communications, like Dr. Amos Sawyer says, one of those things that we consider the soft part of national development in a country like Liberia, struggling to rebuild its infrastructure as a result of the devastating, colossal damage of our infrastructure. If you look at communications in that way, you will look at it as a baton tool. But somebody who study the sciences and the arts will say communication should be a national priority. It didn't happen and hasn't been happening for quite a while. But we've been there trying to meddle the different kinds of challenges, and trying to do the best we can under the circumstances, from LBS to the Ministry of Information. Since I've been there as Minister of Information, I try to explain to our national population audience that the way communication has been treated over the years, the national spokesperson of the government through the Ministry of Information, has not been treated the way it should have been treated. And I can argue, and we can make sense out of it. Most people think that the ministry should be that place where it should be on the reactive standpoint. It shouldn't be. It should be on the positive standpoint, where you're creating programs and agendas for promoting national programs and policies of the government. That is within the remit as enshrined by law. To do that, it means you have to have the requisite resources to sit down strategically, plan, and deal with it. At the same time, too, you have to work in synergy with other ministries and agencies to develop those kinds of programs and policies that will resonate and make sure that the government does what it does. But it is not just unique to this administration. Over the since the war, we as a people we've treated communication as an activity, and we've made the case that whatever you do, whether you like it or not, you're talking about a computer without the necessary software to create the kind of things you want to create will not work. So national, the infrastructures in terms of health, education, the road infrastructure, all the binding constraints that national development talks about. If you match them against communications, media and communications, somebody will say, "Man, sit down on the sidewalk because we're not ready yet for it." But that would be the sad mistake. But the truth is that regardless of the hardware, there is a software to everything you do. And I will continue to reference the late Dr. Amos Sawyer, that the software of national development, which consists of something like a national communication strategy that will be part of the national development plan, is sine qua non to anything else, because you're dealing with the human psychosis. It's qualitative in his own outcomes, but at the end of the day, it is far reaching. You build the roads, you build the hospitals, you build the schools and everything else. But what good are these institutions when people don't appreciate them? People don't understand how to use them. People don't understand what they represent and all that sort of thing. And we can see that today in our various communities, how people treat national assets. The only thing that can change mindsets is communication. It's investing in communication. So the software, as opposed, just opposed against hardware, should all come together. That makes national development holistic. And I will say that as my preambular statement.
What's this?
Look, Mr. Minister, well said. I had the opportunity of working at the Ministry of Information, working for LBS. Look, when I take a look back at the Ministry of Information today, honestly, Mr. Minister, I empathize with your situation. Our governments over the year have not really shown interest in communication at the level at which it should be. Take, for example, the Ministry of Information of yesteryear. You had a functional printing press. You had a functional Liberian news agency. You had a functional broadcasting division. You had a functional television department, and other components of communications were all viable. Today, the Ministry of Information, you are there, you can better speak to that. But from what I see in the public domain, the Ministry of Information role in national development has been minimized. And this is where I say I empathize with you, a career journalist, to even be able to function at the level at which you want to see communication going. Because, like you said, communication is not an event, it's a process. We need to invest into that, but we are not there. Does that really frustrate you that as a trained communicator, but your hands are tied? How do you juggle that,
I, I
Alleged?
I mean, Moses, it's true that, and it's not just about, and I will say this much. It's not just about advent of national communications was talked about.
Losing him.
He's gonna come in.
Leji, as it is right now, if you can hear me, we're losing you. Leji, can you hear me? We're losing you. Everything you said, we cannot hear you. I don't know if the internet. Uh, yeah, everything you're saying now. Uh, we kind of lost contact with you. So let me just put you backstage. We'll come back to you. Uh, let's hope that probably
He can get
probably the
that taken care
connection
of.
went in and out, and then we started to lose him. Um,
Yeah.
so hold on, Moses. Let me see if
You can bring him back. He's
yeah,
been,
we still
yeah,
you
try
know
him.
one way to remedy one way sometimes when these kinds of things happen, you probably could log off and come back in because we're not hearing you now. Everything you're saying, yeah,
Oh my God.
I know that a new gadget, that a baby. Log
Connectivity problem.
probably
Yeah.
probably log off and come back in. Probably that will help. You can do that. I'll put you backstage and come back to you once I see that you look settled. But Moses, we haven't
Yeah.
even got into the nitty gritty of the conversation,
Yeah.
and you can rightly see that it's frustrating.
It
It's
is.
frustrating, and not to say anything regarding the government or whatever it is. Many of the sectors in the country are underfunded. Many of the sectors. So I don't think the information ministry is of any exception. You talk about the DEA budget being $2 million. You know, you talked about
Mental health,
the mental health
30,000.
getting $30,000. So that in itself is a serious matter. And sometimes we miss priorities. And like you said, communication, man, listen, you and I wouldn't have been known. The people that are making all the talk, the people that say their own talk show, our man Jay Randy, you got Henry Costa, you got Stanton Witherspoon the other day who nobody knew about. But that's me, that's what media does.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
promotes you.
there's a
Yeah,
power. There's a power to
communication
media.
is a powerful tool. Yeah,
Henry Peabody, those guys have made themselves household name. Tomlin George,
yeah,
and how did it happen? It's by the media. So any leader who comes to power and do not understand the power of the media, of course, then I don't know where did you come from, but let's see. Let me bring him in and see. Say something. Let's see. Can you hear me, Leggy?
oh my
No.
god.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not yet. Not yet. But I like I said, I advise that you log off, and come back in. Probably that may remedy the situation. Sometimes we find that to happen
Yeah.
because when you kind of went blank, the internet went in and out. You were frozen for a while. So let's try it. In fact, he's frozen now.
Okay. Yeah, it's frozen.
So yeah. So I mean, it's sad, and that's what it is. That's what it is. When you think about how and not to pinpoint anything else. The man who rather put some money in the media was Charles Taylor.
Oh yeah. Oh, the man
Okay,
knew that he knew the
he knew the
importance of
importance of the
communication.
media.
Mhm.
He
Yeah.
understood the purpose of the media, and the media propagated for him. When all odds were against him, when all the decks were stacked against him, he made use of the media at the highest point. In fact, the media fought the war for Taylor.
Of
You remember
course.
with Robin White?
Hmm.
Who didn't want to
Robin Wood.
who didn't want to listen to BBC and Taylor and
5
Robin
o'clock,
White?
my man. 5 o'clock. Everybody glued to the radio.
Oh, that beep, 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 beep. That was small thing. Oh man. Beep, beep,
Yeah.
beep, 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 beep. But first you will get the pips, right? Beep,
Yeah.
beep, 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 beep.
Focus on
17
Africa.
hours, 1700 hours GMT.
GMT.
Welcome to the BBC Focus on Africa. Bam. And then you see people by the radio, my man.
Everybody glue, my man.
That's the power of the media. And some presidents
Yeah.
don't even understand it.
No.
You know, there's a
Yeah.
combination of a good legislature and a powerful media.
Yeah.
Because the combination there is that when the legislature means business and the,
Yeah.
and the media is consistent and transparent and professional, balanced and ethical, my brother, you have a thriving society.
Of course.
You have an enlightened society.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate at this
It
point.
is. It is. It's very
Everybody muddying in the water. The water, my man, the media like kiss meat. You know what they call kiss meat? You know kiss meat?
well, me, I don't kiss me. Where you
How the
I,
media
when,
will not run out
I
like
grew up in Ghana, Tomo, Ghana, you
kiss
ask me
me.
about kiss me.
All kinds of people holding gadgets, cell phone. I think the minister smiling, maybe he hearing us.
No, we used to go to the swallow. They asking me if I know about kiss me.
I hope you can hear me too because I'm
Yeah,
not
Yeah,
yeah,
even
we
we
hearing
yeah
you
hearing
we
now.
can hear you
myself
now.
any
You're
longer.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
we
good.
hearing
We
you.
can hear you.
So
But
that's what I
let's
was saying.
continue.
Like I said, the media look like kiss me now. Everybody just how the kiss me thing. Y'all be all inside each other. Everybody gadgets,
Yeah,
cell
yeah,
phone, all kinds of stuff, my
I
man.
mean,
You go to
yeah,
press conference, the man, that take phone, you lay it down right there, off.
yeah. But anyway, let's
I
get the
mean,
minister to go ahead. Yeah,
we cannot say anything more than what you've said in terms of the multiplicity of media and citizen journalism. You can legislate for the fact that people have a right to information
right.
and they have the right to also give information.
Mhm.
The only thing our constitution has said and will continue to emphasize is the responsibility aspect of it. And we will continue to ask ourselves, all of us as Liberians, whether at home and abroad, to think about the country we're trying to develop, and how do we dialogue? I love the dissent. Trust me. If you ask me, I love the dissent. But I also believe that there should be respectability in our dissenting voices. As I say to people, one does not have to use insulting and denigrating words to disagree with a point or an opinion or a policy matter that a brother of the government is postulating. Any strong intellectual will deal with the issues at bar as opposed to using
Yeah.
words that are denigrating of an individual or an institution of a person. And this is where I cut my line. Because all of us are trained journalists, all three of us.
Yeah.
Those people who say quote unquote political commentators, having had the requisite training to understand that when you use a particular tool, look at this program. This program is not broadcast on using frequencies from Liberia, but it's an intellectual program that people should have. Those are the kinds of things perhaps we should be listening to, not opposed to what the other side presents and talking about people's person and the way in which it's presented and all those kinds of things. But that's the marketplace. That's the marketplace. My only thing is that when you see certain things about people, you should be held responsible and accountable on the basis for that. If you cannot provide that, then it's a whole ball game. But let's go back to what we were talking about, our whole issue of the Ministry of Information and the role we play and how we're trying. Just last week I issued an invite to the Press Union of Liberia. Long years ago, Volcano and Moses,
Yeah.
when those kinds of letters come, so they're coming close registration now. So I was imagine I'm in many chat rooms and I see people say, "Oh, going back to the days of PRC decree and all that kind of stuff." I said, "No, we're having a discussion. Let's look at because we're going towards the elections. How do political clout as minister of information? I also believe that I'm a media person, and I think that we should hold ourselves accountable. We should hold ourselves responsible. We should make sure that whatever we do, we should not be the catalyst through which people will use to ferment violence. People will use to feed into the fire. As public officials, people say a lot and they should say because that's what we sign up for. When you're a public official, your privacy is very limited. So people should criticize you. People should say things that they don't believe in your policies and your actions, but they should not disrespect your person and your privacy to the extent that it borders on hate. And that's all we're trying to achieve. Because at the end of the day, this is one Liberia we're looking for, a peaceful country. Contestation is all about electioneering. Elections is about contestation. Once you go to the elections, who wins wins. We'll move on. We shake each other hands. Barrow and I will be playing during the week. People will argue all weekend. Barrow will win. I will win, and that sort of thing. But people should not use that to foment violence, to insult other people, to take chances of subverting the peace. We should criticize each other to the strongest. The policies that the government pursued should be questioned, as we question also to the ruling party question also to the policies that other people say they bring on board that will do better. That's the marketplace of and a juxtaposition of democracy and the pluralism of ideas. So we should do that. But we should be respectful and
Let me
mindful
throw
of
this
each
at you
other.
quick, Mr. Minister. Uh,
And that's all I am.
yeah. So usually people talk about the gains, but where we are now, and the few miles away to the national elections, what are the challenges right now this government is facing? Let's start from the challenges, then we can go on a reverse with Moses coming in with the gains. But I'm concerned about where we are as a country at this point. I know we've seen a lot happening in the country, but talk about the challenges, Mr. Minister.
I'm happy that for once, on on
We're
an
losing you again.
international
Yeah.
platform
Continue.
as it is, that there's a recognition that the country has made progress. Most often in time, somebody would say, "Oh, uh, challenges. I mean, no gains have been made." Somebody would say, "No gains have been made," but at least this country hasn't. What this administration has inherited is a result of long years of misrule and perhaps a parochial eco governance system coming way back, not just from the Tottenham administration or the first administration of our country. The same thing about economic, bloating our, getting the best of our resources, giving our people basic health, improving on the basic health care, improving on our rules, infrastructure, making sure that education remains paramount, making sure that the governance issues are correct, fighting corruption, all these kinds of things remain a challenge. And it's not good. And it didn't start from this administration, neither the previous administration, neither the from and I'll say so. And somebody would think that I'm being political, but I've come to realize that when you read our country's history and getting back to the formation of our much education in terms of national governance of what it called a had to do, and then come the modern era of our country, things started to evolve. So we need to move on. It's not about it deals with what it inherits and move on. If we did that, we'll be making more progress as opposed to what we're looking for. Oh, these people did this and they didn't do that, and the other people didn't do that, and that is it. But I believe that all of the things that I've named into earlier are the challenges of our country.
It's really really
Are you getting
frustrating
me,
to me.
gentlemen?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, no. We missed a lot of what he said. I'm inclined to think that it would be better if the minister can come via WhatsApp. I think even his audio would be better because we're really losing him.
That he can just call, eh?
Call in, yeah. Uh, uh, Leggy, if you can hear me, what I think would be much expedient at this point is that if you can call, or Moses calls you and we can feed you in live. That way we can have the conversation because he's trying to log in again on the other side.
Yeah.
So
Let me
okay,
call
he's
him.
back. Hold on.
Okay.
Leggy.
Yeah, he's spinning.
So again, we're not hearing you. So Moses gonna call you. Let me just
Let me call him.
well, these are the challenges we talk about, technology, equipment, all these things that have the way of playing on us. I know he came in good faith. but things happen. Even myself here, sometimes I struggle. I'll make sure everything is all set, and then I show up in studio, and then crazy things happen. A few times, I these things happen. But anyhow, I know a lot of you, you know, have burning issues you will rather want to raise tonight. If we put him through the line, then it would be so difficult for callers to call because we haven't even really delved into the crust of the conversation. Um, he came a little late, and then coupled with now he's having all of these technological crisis as it is. So I would prefer actually if he can just come by audio, which would be probably the most preferable way, because at some point we all know it's him, and his voice would matter. We want to hear what he has to say rather than see what he has to say. So that's the difference here. We want to hear Moses what he has to say. We don't want to see what he has to say.
But look, I just talked to him behind the scenes, so he's going to use his tablet to
Okay, so he's
comment.
trying to use his tablet.
Yeah, to
Okay,
comment,
all right, yeah,
and
let's see.
that can also work well. You know,
Let's see. Well,
yeah,
it's unfortunate that we have to be dealing with this again, but he came in good faith, and I thought
yeah.
that we have had
He's
a
committed to
wonderful
the discussion.
conversation. But I
Yeah,
would hate to cheat the audience, especially if he's giving his answer uh, and people he's going in and out, then
yeah,
it doesn't go well. But overall, uh, uh, say Wilson say he has a couple of questions. Let's
yeah.
see when he comes back. Say it, D. Say Wilson. He's trying to get his
Tablet.
tablet connected. But overall, Moses,
Mhm.
uh, irrespective of what the minister says here tonight, there will be misperception. There will be personal views. There will be, like he talked about, he likes this dissent, right? The
Mhm.
disagreement, uh, but it should be done in a civil manner rather
Right.
than attacking people, person, the character, and stuff like that. Talk about the things that they fail to do. And I say this all of the time for as long as we've been on this podcast and prior to. Um, I don't have problem with President Weah as the person. I love the guy as the person. He did what he had to do, but as a president, what he fails to do is what I have the problem with. And no one
Absolutely.
can tell me that I don't have the right to say that, you know, like the minister is saying that we have the right. Because when you come in a public limelight, when you become a public servant, you will be criticized, you
Uh,
know, and
of
there's a positive sometimes out of criticism. Go ahead.
No, I was saying that when you're in the limelight, your life become an open book. So everyone has to read that open book.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know.
and as I was saying, there's positive sometimes in criticism.
Yeah.
And that is why you must listen to your citizens. You know,
Hmm.
um, some of the things that your confidants come to you to tell you, it's not a personal thought. It's coming from the gutters where they sat. It's coming from the under the plum tree ludo board they were playing on. It's coming from the market grounds. So when these people come to you, take it in,
They
sleep
are
over it.
feeding you what the people are
Yeah.
saying. Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
it's not the case for most of our African leaders. They all will want to hear Kwaku, you strong. And it doesn't work like that. Kwaku, you're not always strong. Some day that Kwaku, you can't even get out of bed. So we can't tell
Because
you say Kwaku the
be-
day you able to get out of bed.
because
Oh,
we are human beings.
yeah.
Nobody is a perfectionist. So we all have our own strengths and weaknesses. We have limitations. So we just have to accept that. I agree with you, Volcano. We have to accept that. But like the minister was saying, the discourse we have to do it with some degree of respect. If you're going to come and accuse me of a crime, just make sure you have the evidence to show that hey, I committed this crime. And if I'm also accusing you of of anything that I believe that you did, I should be able to, provide, the evidence. But to just go about, uh, tarnishing the high end reputation of people in the absence of evidence, that's not journalism. No, that's not.
But
No.
when you think about also public officials, who themselves are being accusatory and making statement, and they said liquor talk.
Oh
Where do
no.
you go with that?
No, that's not right.
Yeah, but Moluba Molu is a public official. The man is the chairman of the party. The man said some scandalous things about the president. And then he said a liquor talk, and the man stay party chairman. Then what you expect some people to media people to do too? They will say that liquor talk. Donald Trump said it was a locker room talk. So
No,
my own talk would be in the closet. It was
no,
closet
but
talk. You
but
know,
two wrongs do not make one right.
I understand, Moses, but at some point people need to draw the line before they
Yeah,
even cross over the line.
I agree.
If you don't draw the line, and some lines are very, very subtle. They are a silhouette. You really can see them. It's a
Yeah.
shadow. That
Mhm.
is why you got to be very, very careful.
Yeah.
Very careful. So, you know, when I took my driving test here
Yeah.
in the States, we went through the parking lot.
Mhm.
You know, the parking lot got leadways, right? And
Yeah.
honestly, you can't just drive across the parking lot.
No,
You
you
get a
got to
ticket.
follow. Yeah,
You got to
leeway.
follow
Yeah, the leeway.
the roads in the parking lot because you
Yeah,
got the
you don't
parking
just go
spaces inside
driving
the
across.
parking lot.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just going through the parking lot. So the man said, "You stupid." The white man to me said, "You stupid." I said, "But what you causing me
You
for?"
said that all the people cars will be running though.
He said, "You don't know that you supposed to stop and observe." I said, "Well, all you supposed to tell me." He said, "No, I didn't have no other way to tell you because you just going through. You could hit somebody or hit a car." I said, "Okay." He said, "You feel." The man feel me, my man. The man was done with me. The man
the
feel
man,
me.
the man said, "Man, you can't pay attention."
So
He doing
let's
his
see.
own thing.
Let's
Yeah,
see if
okay.
the
The man says, "Oh, okay."
let's see if the tablet is working.
Yeah, he's on the tablet now. Yeah. Uh, okay.
The tablet ain't working. Oh.
No, no, he's
Let you
on.
can hear you.
Do you? Eh?
No.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you going on now. So
Damn.
yeah, so man,
Okay, he's
man,
coming.
I hear that the old star. I'm
Oh,
trying to move that. That was when he was
okay.
in his other studio. Yeah. So the man said he fed me. So I said, all right. So from that day, my man, I realized my in parking lot. I pay attention. So we got what we call imaginary stop signs. The
Yeah.
point I'm trying to make here, and the analogy I was putting forth, is that in these things that we do, we need to be careful,
Mm.
extremely careful. And it's hard to draw the line,
So,
especially today. Today is very hard. On our personal social media pages, if
mhm.
you are on your personal page, you want to do some crap, that would be you in Facebook, right?
Oh yeah.
But but when you now have something like the issues room, that's why we have to really stay in certain lane,
Oh yeah.
and
Not
we can't
everything we
we
do
can't
that.
cross those boundaries. We
Hmm.
have to be careful, and I think that's what Leggy was trying to
Okay.
share with us.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh, do you hear him, Volcano?
no, not yet.
No audio. Audio.
No audio. I don't know if you hearing me, but no audio from your end, and your mic
Maybe
is not
maybe
muted.
his microphone is
No,
muted.
no, no, it's
No,
not
I
muted.
think he got it. Eh? Let him try something.
Not yet.
Oh my god.
Not yet. You
Let,
know,
let me
I
call
think
him. Let's do audio.
the honest thing to do, Leggy, would be audio. You've already been here, so people know it's you, so we can feed you in by audio.
So let me call him and see if we
Yeah,
can do
yeah.
audio.
Let me put you backstage. But overall, I think we applaud his effort to be here tonight, and it's just unfortunate that his gadgets are not just performing. And yes, I'm a living witness. And sometimes I've been in Liberia where I try to broadcast, and the network can be very, very, very difficult. So I know exactly what he's going through. Um, we didn't plan for this. We didn't anticipate this, but that's what happens when you're in a terrible situation. And the people taking the money and putting it on different things. That's what can happen. They put all the money on different things. So, uh,
The man can bring me. Okay, good.
no,
Yeah,
Moses,
we're
no,
gonna
no,
do.
no, Moses, give me his number right now. Let me call him so I can feed him through the board. We're not gonna do
Oh,
that.
okay, okay. Alleged Volcano is gonna call you on your WhatsApp number. Let me send it to him. He gonna feed you through the bowl. Yeah, let me call him. All right. He's gonna call you. All right. Okay. Thanks, man.
So text
Hmm.
me the number right now.
Yeah, I'm
We
coming.
just gotta.
Let me get his number.
My people, the in the Liberian way, my people, your sorrow will do the thing tonight.
Yeah, we have
We
to do
still got
everything.
we still got at least some time.
Yeah, we got time to be with the minister. This is part of the technical, problems we deal with sometimes
We say
in
how
this
long it take to
business.
find the number now?
Yeah, man.
Call the number to me if that be the case, or text it now.
Okay. All right. Check your text. I just sent it to you.
Okay.
you have you seen it?
You say you send text, I go in the text.
Mm-hmm. Eruptible.
Which text? You send it to WhatsApp or you
I
send it
sent
to?
it to your eruptible.
But then that's not text. How you send me? What do you mean
I
eruptible?
mean, don't don't you have text message on this number? Eruptible Shelton. Your phone number. You just go copy the thing and put it into WhatsApp.
Oh Moses, you never send me no text. Did you
I
send it
did.
to email?
I sent it as a text, my man.
Moses, man, stop playing. No text here. Why am I gonna?
I did. And check out. I like
Moses, you never send me no text.
okay, not just saying the thing, my man. I
Okay,
can that. Okay. Have
but
you
then
seen it?
it's not here.
Okay, so let's do this. Let me read it to you so you can.
No, no, there's a man private number. I don't want to read it live. That's his private number. You can't read a man's number live.
Do you want me to send you text? I just send the thing to you. You say you
Moses,
know got
here's
it.
my text message. There's nothing from you. Why we arguing? It just came. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Let me see here. Hold on.
Oh my god.
No, it didn't even come. That old text.
Okay. Let me send it again. Please make sure you check your number that is under eruptible.
Wow.
Do you have it there? I just sent it again. Do you see it?
Moses, I don't know why you're sending this text message. Are you sending this message to 442722808?
Yeah, that's the full phone number.
But then it's not coming. It's not being delivered. I don't have to
Oh,
lie to you. It's not being
okay.
delivered. It's
Okay.
just not
So
coming.
let me go to your WhatsApp number again. I don't know what's happening, but let me send it to this and see what's going on. All right, check again.
It just came through WhatsApp.
I just sent it to WhatsApp. Yeah.
I said it just came, Moses.
Okay.
All right.
Call
So
him.
let me try to get that on.
Hmm.
But in the meantime, you know, we were he was talking about the press union, right?
Yeah, the
And
relationship. Mhm.
yeah, so continue in that trend. What because usually when the minister calls media institution to the ministry is like it's about to muscle the press, and that's what he was trying to talk about. So continue there while I try to reach him.
Yeah, the government and media relationship. That's what he was talking about. That for the fact that media institutions, have the right, to publish, they have the right to broadcast. That does not in any way mean that anyone can take to the airwave or take to any newspaper and just publish anything. There are laws on the book. There's what we call libel. That is for publication. If you publish anything that defames someone's character, if you report anything that is considered to be untruthful, you can be sued for libel. If you broadcast anything that harms someone's reputation or endangers the person's safety, you can be sued for slander. That's in broadcasting. So these laws are there, and the expectation is that our media institutions in the country will adhere to these laws. But it goes both way. For the fact that the laws are on the book, that does not way. I mean, that does not in any way mean that if a public official engages into something that is absolutely wrong and the media reports that, then it means that a government official can say, well, I'm going to quote a code, or I will institute other, unlawful acts against the media institution. And, as an advocate, as a journalist myself, we all would condemn that. So the responsibility of reporting, the responsibility of holding public officials accountable, and even the responsibility of holding ourselves accountable is a two-way street. We hold our public officials accountable, and then we hold ourselves accountable as well. Yeah. So we hope that people in government will not try to use, other
Trying to
means.
reach him now.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear the phone
Hold on,
ringing.
Moses.
Mhm.
Back,
Legend,
Yeah.
I'm back on.
Good.
you back on? You mean in the studio or here? Because we're on WhatsApp now. Who's just better?
I'm listening to you guys through the studio.
Okay, so you can hear us.
So you want to bring him in
I
the
don't
studio?
care.
Okay, we're good. We're good. Okay. So quickly, man, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank you for your indulgence and hanging here with us tonight. It's unfortunate that technology has a way. The minister did mention that he just got a new set of gadgets and he was hoping that he was going to, kind of use it tonight without any hindrance. But unfortunately, we've been having a series of outages and we reverted to utilizing just the audio. So if you just join us, you're listening to the Liberian Information Minister, Honorable Ledgerhood Julius Rennie. He's here tonight. We're having a conversation, friendly conversation about his role as information minister, the relationship of his ministry to the government and people of Liberia and the media in particular. We've covered some grounds and we were in the area where we're discussing some of the challenges of the government at this point. Mr. Minister, could you just probably, in a quick summary, go back to that? Because when we're having a conversation, you were going in and out, and it was not fair to the listeners. So please reiterate some of the things that you talked about with regards to the challenges the government faces before we look at some of the gains.
So, thank you, Volcano and Moses, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to appear on your platform tonight. And let me just say for the record that, you see, just the fact that technology fills everyone, no matter what side of the divide you are. I was watching you both trying to figure out how to get my number, and that's what thing I was saying. Imagine me in a third world country,
Yeah.
a match against you guys in the first world country. But
Sure.
that's it.
Yeah.
What he was trying to say initially was that, look, regardless of all of the things we hear about our country in Liberia, the fact is that we should remain responsible, especially with the media. I'm a media background individual. And I say this because I think that most often in time, the debate setting the agenda, what you people hear on the outside of our country, on the other side, are simply based on the fact of what is reported at home. There's a domestic saying in Liberia, the street doesn't sell you. I mean, the house doesn't sell you. the street wouldn't buy you. The local dailies, what the radio stations discuss every morning, those are the agenda setting things that people will discuss daily. And we should continue to hold public officials, most of us who are media people, I mean, who are in the government, the feet to the fire because we now are in a driver's seat. But I always say and argued everywhere in my life that it should be done in a responsible way. Sometimes debates can be had. We go to different parties, we argue a lot, but we don't insult each other. It's same with the media. We should have these kinds of heated debate, but respectful of each other's personality, each other's views. Once we do that, we're in the realms of responsible journalism, we're in the realms of responsible freedom, we're in the realms of responsible discussion, and a multiplicity of marketing our different ideas. That's all I am saying. For this government, we're not in the business of closing media outlets. I was speaking this morning to ECOWAS Radio, coming out of the Ome Radio to ECOWAS Radio. And they were asking me, I remember my letter to the Press Union Liberia, and it was subjected to all kinds of interpretations. Some people say, oh, going back to the dark days of Decree 88A, all that kind of stuff. We were only holding discussions. We asked for discussions on strengthening ethical standards and social responsibilities. That's all we're doing. Our constitution provides that people should speak freely, but they should be held responsible thereof. Somebody asked me and said, to what extent, if people continue to violate, would you do? I said, we'll continue to dialogue on these matters. We'll continue to find a way to deal with it. But no, there's no win in trying to close a media house or trying to stifle or muzzle free speech. It's just most of the time, the things that are happening now, the transgressions that are taking place, are simply based on lack of knowledge, lack of training, and lack of understanding of the attending responsibilities that they have. Other than that, we'll move forward. We'll continue to talk about it, but there is no reason why any media institution must be closed down because of dissenting views, even to the extent that it hurts, but we find a way around it.
Mr. Minister, quick, one of the viewers here tonight, Mr. C. Wilson, asked the question, with all the limitations Samuel Doe had and with no prior outside exposure, Doe called press conferences on many occasions for the 10 years he ruled the country. Since President Weah incumbent say he has not been able to hold press conferences as expected from a president, particularly when it comes to issues of national concern. In your capacity as the information minister, why is it not happening? What do you think is responsible for this? Because you hear this in all quarters. The president does not address the nation except his sona. The president doesn't care. Why is this, Mr. Minister?
I don't believe that assertion is true in terms of president doesn't address the nation. Because the president doesn't hold press conferences as the styled to come to the executive mansion behind the podium and talk to the media doesn't necessarily mean president doesn't address the press conference. President meets just today. President signed a book of condolence. He was coming out. And he met the press and they spoke to him. Isn't that addressing the press? Who stopped anybody from asking any question they wanted to ask?
The people say a formal press conference where international journalists would come in, like it used to be, giving outside work an entry to the issues of national concern in the country. I think that's where people are coming from, Mr. Minister.
The president had several engagements with international press. But besides that, too, let's understand this, Volcano. Times have changed. We're in a modern world. Presidents tweet, presidents issued Facebook messages, presidents say things in bits and pieces. No need. If the president decides that his style is to deal with the press at different levels, that's his style. It doesn't have to be any longer that mundane kind of situation where one stands behind a microphone and a podium, bringing all shades and opinion together. And so you ask me and ask you. The president has been very open to media people. The fact that they don't accept the style doesn't necessarily mean the president has not been open and amenable to the press in Liberia or international press, so to speak.
Okay. Moses?
Yeah. So, just before the next question, I would, Mr. Minister, do you hear me? Does
Yeah,
he hear me?
I can hear you though.
Speak,
Okay.
Moses. Yeah, you
Yeah.
good.
So, I was saying that the meeting with the Ministry of Information and the Press Union. How did that meeting go? What evolved out of that meeting?
Oh, the meeting was very cordial. Very cordial. In fact, the president welcomed the meeting. And let me just say this to many of the naysayers that we call that meeting and people misread all of the different kinds of things. Look, this country has moved on. There is no interest. There is no way a superstructure called Ministry of Information can sit down and say it can muzzle the press or stop people from saying what they want to say. Citizen journalism, the multiplicity of media types and sources to information. So it's crazy for somebody to think in the wildest of the dream by thinking that just the fact that we have an issue of a particular reportage, we're going to close a radio station down that will stop people from saying what they want to say is simply wrong and mundane and it's ludicrous, so to speak. For me, as Minister of Information, who is a trained journalist to the core, who's gone through the ropes of Liberian journalism, all we want to do is to ensure the peace and tranquility of our country. And when you hear things or when you begin to see a pattern of things going overboard, it is important to call the stakeholders. I sit down at the Ministry of Information every day. People call, oh, that's already, oh, Minister, you hear the person say this, the person say that, person got different shades of opinion, whether for or against. And I said many a times to people, I say, if you believe you're a public official, that you've been malign in the media, go to the press union in Liberia. Don't come to the Ministry of Information. The best place to go is for media and peer review using the mechanisms available by the media itself so that they can deal with their own peers and say, oh, this thing you wrote or this thing you said, you wrong this public official or you wrong the ordinary Liberian. Don't come to the Ministry of Information because any attempt to do so will be seen, quote unquote, as muzzling the press. And I know for a fact. That is why we wrote the PR and said, look, let's have a discussion. A discussion not necessarily adversarial to any reportage, but to about, let's start thinking about going forward. How do we deal with these kinds of excesses in the media so that tomorrow we don't throw our country down the garbage just because we think that we want to be heard. You know as well as I do. And I make reference to your platform. The way you conduct yourselves, you criticize, you hold our feet to the fire as public officials, but you do not cross that red line because you are trained journalists, you are trained communicators, and you know the ropes. Somebody say, oh, I'm a social or I'm a political commentator. So my point is, if you are a basketballer and you are playing a football match, should you hold the ball with your hands and say it's not, it's not a foul? No. Especially so when you're rebroadcasting your program through the frequencies, the airways of Liberia. That's a national public asset that is governed by rules and regulations. And that's all we're saying.
Hmm.
It's easy for, I mean, I don't know, but I don't know how much I can say. It's so simplified.
So,
I get criticized every morning. All public officials get criticized every morning. Who troubles anybody? But when somebody sits a phone and make a wildcat allegation, and let me say this much, We've seen situation and nearby in Sierra Leone. I gave that as the fresh and classic example. A guy sat down in the Netherlands and put people on the streets in Freetown, and that led to the crushing and brutal murder of people. I hate to say so, but that's fact. We all saw it, we witnessed it in international wise. Do you people want that to happen in Liberia? And then somebody will say, oh, Ledger Rennie is sitting down to make sure information and not holding people responsible. Holding people responsible does not necessarily mean closing them down. It's reminding them of the responsibility, the ethical and social responsibility. That's all we're doing. Like, hey, don't get carried away by all of the flurry of the talk on the time. You make sure that you have to hold your foot. That the gatekeeping process have to be well manned so that we don't put our country down the abyss. That's all we say. We should disagree. We should disagree strongly, but respectfully. That's all we're saying. And truthfully too.
So how comfortable are you now in your role going forward as we
Oh,
approach the end of this government's tenure?
uh, you know, I've always been comfortable, Volcano. I've had my own differences with respect to how communications has been treated with respect to the priorities of the government. But I've always been comfortable as an individual, but I always believe that there can be better because remember we started off the conversation by saying national development comes with a lot of things, and one of the reasons why, and not just this administration, it's about after the war. How can communications become an activity, media and communication activity, as opposed to a pillar, PILLR, of national development? That's why I said about the hardware and the software. We can build all the roads, we can build all the institutions, the schools, the clinics, the hospitals, everything. But people have to understand the psychosis of people. How do you deal with it? It is that software, the qualitative side of communication that we bring to the board, communication, media communication, that will set the agenda that people will know and appreciate that which the government is doing, it is for their own good. And that's what we're saying. We're just only arguing our place at the table. That's all.
Has it gained fruitful results?
Well, it's not yet to where we want to be,
Okay.
and I'll say that to you. But we're making head. At least now people are beginning to understand that there has to be a national strategic approach to communication. If it is not done, then we'll go back in circles. Most of the time, most of the problems we have is just the communication problems, not because things are not done well. When somebody say to you, government has not investigated any of the quote unquote mysterious deaths in the country, it's not because of anything else. It's because they believe that it's not being communicated well. And one has to understand we can play the politics and let's say the opposition will play that politics because of the gullibility of a society. An investigation being held with logic conclusion as opposed to not accepting results are two different things. You can say that we have not accepted the results, conclusive results of the investigation. But to say the investigation wasn't held, that's a whole different ballgame. And this is where I get so frustrated in some of our brothers and sisters on the other side of the political divide, so to speak, because I believe Liberians we all want. There's no real ideological change, but we understand it. So politics is what it is. But let's face the reality. What has not been investigated? You only accept the result. That one thing. I am Barrow played the B at 1-0. You cannot say the game wasn't played. The game was played. There was a result. Say I accept the result. then that's a whole new debate. But you say the game was never played? Oh man, then I think that's selective amnesia, so to speak.
Just before Moses comes in, I'd like to throw this at you. And the reason I asked you the question of the comfortability in your role, we saw for a short while Eugene Nangbe, the former information minister, was playing duality roles, being the Liberia Maritime Authority boss and at the same time government spokesperson. Why was that happening, Mr. Minister?
I'm not sure that is the truth.
Okay.
I'm not sure that is the truth. The government spokesperson remains my person as Minister of Information, but from time to time, we determine who speaks on certain issues.
Okay.
Okay.
So in that situation, he was closer to what was to be delivered to the people. So he took responsibility.
Thank you. He was closer. He traveled with the president. Then I didn't
Okay.
have the opportunity to travel. I was home holding the fort. The president asked me to hold the fort with the Minister of Justice, and he was there, so he had the
Closest
information to speak
proximity.
to the
Okay.
yeah.
All
So
right.
yeah, to
Yeah.
deal with it.
Thank you. You know,
Yeah, but
I'm just trying to clarify some of these misconception that was trending, and it's important that you making these points very clear to our viewing public. Moses.
yeah, Minister Renning, it's good that you said that some critics of the administration would say that the government struggles with communication problem. The government PR is not too good out there because you have a fractured communication team, meaning that everybody in the government is speaking. You have a presidential aide, Sekou Kolasco, who sometimes takes to the media making policy statement. You have a presidential press secretary, and Mr. Kolasco will go and make a policy statement. Your minister of information, you have somebody at the Ministry of Finance who believes that he's more of a minister of information than Ledger, who is a trained journalist. Everybody's speaking all over the place. That just create chaos for the government. Do you agree with this criticism that the government communication is fractured?
I don't agree with that. People, there are individuals in government who remember we're not in the Tubman era. You know, we're in social media era. People have the right to disseminate information, whether it's the presidential aide, whether it's the Minister of Finance or the Minister of Public Affairs. In fact, I would be happy if most ministers in their respective domains will be having press conferences and giving information on a regular basis. It eases the pressure on me because they are well placed to talk about the nitty gritty of their work as opposed to me who will talk about the broader issues of governance and the political side of things. So I think it's even a plus for people to do that. Presidential aid is presidential aid. He's there with the president. He's blogging on his own. It does not represent the official position of the government. The government speaks to a Ministry of Information. We speak to different structures. I'm the speaker, official spokesperson. If I have to quote the Minister of Justice or any other minister of the presidency, will do that. Presidential press secretary speaks for the president. Those are official line of communication. So so policy, and then and I don't believe that Mr. Damaru Kalasco Damaru has anything to do with policy issues. He has his own views, and one must understand that he's a Liberian too, and he feels sometimes he's right to speak because when he's with his boss every day, and he had people trying to denigrate a man, people trying to say all sorts of things, and he's right there on the spot. So he's trying to nip social media in the body using social media as his tool of communication. Not necessarily means that it's the policy of the government.
I think that's a good way to look at it.
But
Thank you so much. I know Moses wanted to say something.
yeah, go ahead.
I'm also looking at the fragmentation component that Moses mentioned. How do you think it plays out coming to our national elections if you don't have a cohesive communication conduit through which the message can, get to the public, Mr. Minister?
Then one has to say what is it we're talking about? Because you see, the National Elections Commission is one of those such institutions, created by the Constitution of our country. It's void of the executive. Once that commission is established by the presidency, the executive has little or no bearing on what they do. So the statements coming of the elections commission, even the Ministry of Information don't speak on behalf of the ministry. I mean, speak on behalf of the National Elections Commission. They have their own communication structure. So their issues are their issues. They will speak on behalf of themselves. And it's clear that we have not interfered in the role. The executive has never interfered in the role. I don't believe the legislature will do. The judiciary is there to hear cases emerging from whatever dispute that will emerge. So the elections will be free, fair, and transparent. The president, in his national address to the nation through the state of affairs of our country, made it clear to the international community, not just to Liberians, that he will show that all the support necessary to holding free, fair, democratic, and transparent elections will be done. That means the government of Liberia is committed to that. The Elections Commission is respected on the basis of its constitutional mandate. Not even the president can interfere in electoral matters.
So do you agree that some people are already concerned about the credibility of the Elections Commission? Mr. Minister,
How?
you're right there in the country with all
What
of
are their concerns?
the concern about the chair lady and some of the commissioners who were, involved with misappropriation of money to equipment that was used, and of course, even though she went through the legal proceedings, but still people are not satisfied that with something like that happening under her watch, that she would be credible.
Volcano, what can anybody do in life? If somebody says Leatherwood running took $10, the American jurisprudence that you're in tonight, and somebody says to you, your neighbor says to you, you violated the privacy or something of the sort, or did something wrong, the best place to go is to a court, to the law. And the law says whatever accusations levied against Volcano is untrue. What more can you do? It's vindicated somebody's personal feelings. We can't stop people from thinking otherwise. But to the extent of the credibility and the performance, let's judge Madam Brown Lansana and her commission on the basis of what they've done. These same people have conducted so much elections here that the opposition won. They've won two out of three elections that this commission have held. Credible elections, crucial elections, midterm elections, that this commission that they say that, quote unquote, that you saying people are saying is not credible. That held an election here and the opposition won. So what is it?
And I like the fact I like the fact you're making the points, and at least some of these lights that we're throwing on the topics here tonight and the conversation we're holding, maybe people can open their minds, the opposition can open their minds, and I like the point you made. Yes, that
let me also accentuate, Volcano, that people talk about the legal system and so government, it can lose. Government has lost so many cases, and I say to you that when the government loses a case at the Supreme Court, you hear people saying there's a new day in Liberia. Justice is now being dispensed. When they go to the very Supreme Court and the court ruled against them, they say, oh, we are going back to the dark days. You can't have your cake and eat
Eat
it.
it, right?
You can't have your cake and
They
eat
can
it.
eat it.
But we're in a political world. People will say what they want to say, but the truth is, the evidence are there to be seen, to be judged. You know, how can you accuse the election commission for overseeing 3 elections that 2 of it the opposition won? So how is it, today that it's not credible to lead a national election? They see the election commission, my man. They see referee that ref 2 game your way.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So listen, man. I know Moses want to come in, but again, I think the necessary uh, it's necessary for us to have these kinds of conversation because it enlightens and opens up the corridor for clearer understanding. But again, Liberians are right there and they're seeing these things. The international community, we in the diaspora, we have proximity to all of the issues happening because of the social media age. Why it is true, like you said, don't take everything for a fact coming out of social media. But that is why we're saying that your role as the Minister of Information, the way you're talking now, is necessary for many of these kinds of conversations to be held, and that comes even from the president. What will you say your take on the rule of law in the country? I don't know how you're going to put that in perspective here because I've been there. Everyone is riding with serene. Even I've seen pimping boys got serene, and whether it is there for fun, but it's just chaotic when you look in when you're in the traffic rather the safety issue. A car breaks down in the middle of the road, they turn that spot into a mechanic garage, and that car to fix it in the middle of the road. Where do you see those kinds of things, Mr. Minister? Let's be frank.
George Volcano, George Liberia, from a standpoint of people being kept in bondage for a long while.
Okay.
There's an avalanche of freedom, sometimes overboard. And I agree with you. I get vexed too with all these things. But when you judge, when you look at the kinds of, when you look back at where we're coming from as a country, then you can understand that, look, people sometimes must just be given to air it out, to act in ways that only otherwise they should not act. But at the same time, too, we should not spare the rod and spoil the child.
But that's
In
what
terms of
happening
rule
though,
of
Mr.
law,
Mr. Minister. That's what happening.
no, no, no,
It
yeah,
seems as though the
no,
rod being
no.
spared.
Yeah, I agree. I agree to some extent that we're lenient. But again, let's talk about how do we deal with these kinds of situations. By the time government starts to move in, the very advocacy groups on the ground will say human rights abuse. How do we delineate between trying to deal with what we believe a group of people or a group of people coming from annihilation and bondage to freedom, and then trying to get them now to order, as opposed to trying to use what some people will want to say the strong hands of mama in trying to bring the child to discipline. This is where we're trying to understand ourselves. And it will come to time we'll fizzle in. We'll fizzle in. I mean, there can be no issue, no doubt about the fact that we need to deal with social order. This is about social order. It's not about rule of law. It's just about social order. How do we deal with years of war where people feel they're being annihilated? Young people coming now, more young people on the streets than never before. And they want to wear their shirts with their mom. They walk on the streets without their shirts on. They're doing all sorts of things. How do we deal with them and not unbridle the peace that we have? So it's a catch 1 and 2 that we're trying to figure out. But I believe that what is even most important is the fact that in all of this, we're maintaining the peace, we're maintaining law and order to the extent that they're not going overboard in what they're doing. When you go overboard, you face the full weight of the law. Sometimes, it's not sparing the child to the extent that the child becomes so rude and intolerant and abusive. But, in like grandparents would say, the child just frisky. So we can tolerate that to some extent. But when they go overboard, they get the full weight of the rod of papa or mama, so to speak, in terms of the law.
Process.
Yeah, look, Mr. Minister, it's good you said that, but what is obtaining to this Liberia, and it seems to reflect a little bit different from what you are telling us. Many will agree that one of the foremost challenges of the current administration is the breakdown in the rule of law. As you and I right now, communicate, we have an ongoing legal issue that the police is still struggling to have a complete control of. That is the situation involving the former Chief Justice, Gloria Scott. Her daughter, was reportedly murdered by armed robber or assailant. And the government is still probing, but the police contradict itself, the justice ministry contradict itself, and there are several other legal issues that have unfolded in our country, and yet the government, seems not to be making progress in bringing these legal issues, to a logical conclusion. Take, for example, the discovery of the arms and ammunition at the free port of Monrovia. The police instituted a
Moses,
probe.
let's pick the cherry one at a time.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Yeah,
let me
you,
focus on
you're
this
giving
right
you're
now.
giving me a mouthful to
Yeah.
deal
Yeah.
with. Let's pick the cherry.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's
so
pick the cherry one at a
Start
time.
start with it.
okay,
Start with the red
so
cherry.
so
Hold on,
so
Moses.
so
Start with the
let
red cherry, and then we'll do the blueberries.
okay,
Okay.
so
Let's
so
pick the cherry one at a time.
okay, so Mr. Minister,
Yeah,
help
he got
us.
that. You
Yeah,
want him to
help
speak to
us.
the
Yeah,
Gloria Musu Scott stuff. Yeah.
yeah. Bring us to speed on this issue of Gloria Scott. Where is government on it?
Okay, so where we are, there's an active, ongoing investigation that the police is conducting.
Yeah,
To the extent of that investigation, that's what I can say. As a government, we today issued a statement under the orders of the Minister of Justice that the body of the deceased of our minor, Shalom Musu, will be subjected to forensic autopsy so that we can understand what led to her death. Maybe perhaps can aid in the factual circumstances leading to what happened at the home of the former Chief Justice. That is to the extent. The police have been interviewing the family, including the Honorable former Chief Justice and all those occupants were in the house and in the compound. I cannot speak clearly to what information that's available because the police itself is not giving us information. Remember, these are criminal matters.
yeah,
But to that extent, that's why I can say. I can say this much to Liberia that as a government, we too not just are concerned about what happened, but we are saddened by this sadistic situation, the loss of a life, young lady.
okay,
Whenever a Liberian dies under these kinds of circumstances, it raises eyebrows, and we all saddened about it. The president, the vice president, all have reached out to the former chief justice of our country. So all I can say, regardless of all the different shades of public opinion that's come out from different facets, let us all wait to have a good process of investigation. Let us cooperate with police. Let's cease fire, so to speak. We should not try this case politically or in the court of public opinion. Because as the saying goes, opinion has noses. We all have noses to say. We all have something to say. But they cannot be based on what we think. The police is doing its work. Investigation is underway. Let's be patient. Let's wait for the findings. We sympathize. We empathize with the police findings. We continue to look forward to the police to do their work. That's all I can say for now.
Look, Mr. Minister, you struck a very certain point that we should not politicize this case, but unfortunately, the chair of the
Moses,
CDC
will you
has
twist your
already,
mic towards your mouth?
yeah. Do you hear me, Mr. Minister?
Better now. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I hear
I,
you. I hear you.
yeah,
Moses.
yeah. I was saying that you struck a very certain point that this case should not be politicized. But the chair of the ruling CDC, Moba Moli, has already politicized this matter. First, he tried to drive a wedge between what he called the quote unquote biological parent of the late Shiloh and the Scott family. He said the CDC will travel to Maryland County to meet with the the biological parents of the deceased. When did Mr. Molu get to know that the role of the biological parent is critical as speaking to the former Chief Justice that reared this young woman to a university level, and she died on a, she died in such a brutal way. When did Mr. Molu get to know that? Is Mr. Molu implying that the Scott family, has some kind of a shady role to play in the death of this young woman? Did he not
Moses,
politicize
I
the
can't
death?
speak for the chairman of the ruling party, but
Yeah.
this is to the extent of my response to your question.
Okay.
And that's
Okay.
why I've said all shades of political persuasion and opinions should stop. Because
Okay.
it's not just Mr. Marlowe that have made comments. All of the different groups in this country make comments to the extent, some of them to the extent of accusing and pointing fingers at the government of Liberia for political assassination. Yes.
Okay.
In that America you were in, Councillor Jerome Verdia, the next 24 hours after this incident happened, this unfortunate and sadistic incident happened, was on a network vividly explaining as to what he thought had happened. I have not heard the very groups of condemnation of the death of that little girl. Straight to Councillor Verdia, can you bring us sufficient evidence so that we end this case? Since you say you know what happened. I haven't heard that. So let also in a labyrinth parlance. Let also. Is it
Look,
selective advocacy that people are doing? Hey man, Archbishop Francis then going here. The JPC that we used to know no longer.
look.
Are people hiding under the canopy of these names, calling themselves groups of concerned people and using it for their political ends? So let also. That's why I'm saying that as a government, we're not interested in all of these. For us, we want to know the truth. That is why we issued to the Ministry of Justice, the Justice Minister issued that look, all political pundits, all actors at different levels, social communication, media people, we must stop our inferences and second guessing the case here to the extent that we think that there's an intended motive by anybody to pinch anybody to it. The investigation is continuing. And until that happens, and until a new and until it's concluded, let's all cease fire because it's all conjecturing and it's all about our different political opinion and shades. And it doesn't help the process. The police will be the police. Let the police do its work. And then we can subject the police findings to scrutiny.
Okay.
Mr. Minister, we got 15 minutes to be with you. The intent was not to keep you this long, but with all of the glitches we were experiencing, so we'll be wrapping up at 9:30. But quickly, let's get back to the conversation of the National Housing and Census result as it is now. Uh, we heard that there was a lot of, I would call issues with the census. Some people came to social media and said it were never counted, and all of that. But there was a preliminary number showing different, segments of the country with increased population. Uh, how satisfied is the government with what has been provided by Legis so far?
Thank you for that, Volcano. And I think it's a very important point you raise here. I was at the official results of I mean the ceremony marking the official pronouncement of the provincial results. 97% of Liberians were counted. There's nowhere in the world that everybody in every country will be counted. The results were certified, supported, and backed, and in fact, hailed by a plethora of our international partners. All the European Union countries that supported the process, the Americans, they spent their money, they agreed to the result. Liberians went out in the field. We can understand, and I will be the first to admit, and our government will be the first to admit, at the early stages of the administrative process, not the technical process,
Okay.
the administrative process didn't go well. But the technical process in the collation, the out in the field, and all those kinds of things, they didn't have an issue. It was the administrative process. When we sorted the administrative process out, everything else flowed. And the results reflect the true count of Liberians to date. That's all I can say. I mean, can we bribe the UN? Can we bribe the EU, the European Union? Can we bribe the United Nations, the UNFPA? Can we bribe the Americans to agree to a flawed process? No, we can't. They spoke. Let people go back to the comments that were being made at the announcement of the results coming from our international partners. Sometimes I wonder what is it we want.
We want
Jesus
no,
Christ and say they correct, then we say yeah, we agree.
Leggy, we want everything. We want everything. We want
Well,
everything. You listen, Leggy, you and I know the country we grew up in. That's not a country, and it's understood and or it's understandable that as a result of a war, civil war, like you said, kids born 1990 to now, they're just beginning to understand what freedom feels like, but they're overstepping their bounds, and what it has done, leading them down the road to destruction. We have a lot of little ghettos all over the country. Uh, Incalculable a number of our youth uh, in a state of dejection, and you and I know it. We see a lot happening. Even your colleague Kwame Weeks, he goes out there in communities across the country and go to camps where Zogos are, quote unquote, the Liberian way of calling them. When we hear that the national budget for mental health is $30,000, I pity your ministry already, to say the least. But when we talk about the foundation for our country, and you and I are fading out of the scene, we don't have much left. But if we have all of these
Yeah,
young
but
people,
interruptible.
yeah,
There's something called the At Youth Risk Program that I'm, as one of the ministers, I respond as a ranking member on the National Steering Committee working for our international partners. We recognize that problem.
okay,
And that's what we'll launch in line with our international partners headed by the United Nations program in Liberia. It's an ambitious $30 million program. Last year,
Chief,
to
chief.
deal
Let me
with
call
these
you
kinds of
chief.
drug issues.
Let me call you chief. 13 million as that peanut though, for
Yeah,
youth.
but
Yeah,
at the end of the day, no, we're trying to address. We're trying to, because you see, this is it's a program that was well crafted to understand across the board of our country what are the real issues are with respect to the young people and their drugs. Which, nobody can glide it. It's not something that we can play politics with. It's something that we need to deal with. And this is not just a today's problem as a result of an administration. It's an exigency of the war. It's a product of our war situation. And we're
agree.
not shying away, we're dealing with it. So the first start is to recognize there is a problem, and then recognizing that problem and start to address it. And we're saying, in line with our international partners, there's a program that's just been launched 6 months ago, $30 million to rehabilitate. In fact, just about a month ago, the first set of young men and women went through that program that would now become ambassadors to dealing with all of the different facets of the issues we face with young people in our country. Rome wasn't built in a day's time. Let's talk so torso. We're dealing with a multiplicity of problems. Liberians destroy Liberia. All different people destroy the country. And somebody thinks that in in 20 years of peace, it's just going to be oasis. No, it's not going to be. We don't have the resources as a country. The priorities are even priority over priority.
Mhm.
So we can look at Liberia from two standpoints: the glass half full or the glass empty, or the glass half empty. So, but the point here is we're making monumental progress. Just I sat today at the program of a $40 million in the first time of a generation that the World Bank has given direct money for Liberian businesses, the women of our country, the small and medium-sized businesses, to get direct loans to invest, to build a digital credit system, which means that if I go take loan from the bank A and think I can go to bank B to do it and falter my loan, you're not going to do it. Look, we're rebuilding our whole country here. Moses and Volcano, we're rebuilding our whole country.
Yeah,
And that is why I always argue that when we're having these debates about Liberia, we should not take it to a regime. We should take it from a holistic standpoint.
and and and
Nobody
and,
gave President we are
But
an
look,
oasis.
and Leggy, I agree
He
with
didn't
you.
inherit neither did Ellen Johnson Sirleaf inherit an oasis.
I
We
agree
destroy
with
our
you.
country.
I agree with you in part, and that's why sometimes I also say
And
that.
and some of the people who say they are advocates of change were the very proponents of the destruction of the country. And there's a lot of blame to go around. But if we did that, where would we go? So for us, some of
but
us who know better, we say, look, let's move forward. Let's leave the blame game. In developing building country, people make mistakes. Then we can have a follow discussion. And that is why a platform like this is so necessary, to call people like us to hold our feet to the fire, to deal with us. Mr. Minister, you're not doing well this. Then we can explain. So, okay, you go back and go do what you gotta do. But not to be clown on radio, on air, then you're insulting people, you're accusing people, and think that you're creating, you're contributing to national development. No, hold our feet to the fire. Criticize when there should be criticism, and applaud when there should be, applause.
uh, okay, so Mr. Minister, let me take you to the commitment of the administration to the fight on corruption. And let's go into your history a little bit. This administration came to the presidency, it committed itself to ensuring that corruption in Liberia is minimized. But the situation of corruption in Liberia, I'm sure, Mr. Minister, you will agree with me, it has exacerbated. It took a foreign country to bring to book three of your former officials, former Minister McGill, former Solicitor General Serena Cephas, and the former Managing Director. The U.S. sanctioned these individuals because the United States claimed that they were engaged in acts that undermines Liberia's ability to thrive, meaning that these individuals were engaged in acts that undermine the Liberian economy. Our president, George Weah, sat in Monrovia. He said nothing when all those things were happening. When Mr. Tua came to the presidency, he introduced what they called a mop-up exercise. $25 million. He told the
Moses,
world, yeah.
again, I say,
Okay,
let's
let's do
take
it
the
one at a
cherry
time.
one at a time.
Yeah, Moses, you
Okay.
always put all you trying
No,
to.
I wanted
Yeah,
to
the man know
combine
the
and just
story.
get ready.
Moses,
So,
the minister
so,
knows the story. Just say what the government doing on the fuel corrupt. The minister know. Don't.
so, Mr.
Let,
Minister,
let's pick the cherry
where,
one at a time. You
yeah,
can
so,
go to specific. I don't mind dealing with the specifics,
yeah, so, Mr.
but let's
Minister,
pick the cherry one at a
So
time.
so the man, Mr. Minister,
yeah,
the man talking about the three men there.
yeah, where
But,
are we
Thank
uh,
you.
when it comes
what,
to
But the
fighting
first thing
drugs?
first,
Yeah,
let me correct the preamble
yeah,
that the government is corruption is at its highest level on the government.
it is.
I mean, I don't know where Moses got his
Mr.
empirical
Minister
evidence from.
is debatable. The records are out
Because
there.
if that were the case, the international community, the IMF, the World Bank, and all the indices coming out of Liberia will not tell the story that they're telling now. Just today, at the launch of the $40 million Lift Liberia Investment, Finance, and Trade Project that will deal with trying to give livelihood to ordinary Liberian businesses, winning with the specific interests and focus. The World Bank, the resident representative of the World Bank, who is going, he said, in the last 3 years, with all of the challenges across West Africa, Liberia maintained a stable, maintained a macroeconomic stability. Inflation remained very low. The government came into power and met an inflation that was in free fall, 30% and going. Today, it is at 6 to 7%. So let the politics and the politicians say what they want to say. But read these kinds of reports. I encourage you people to read these reports on Liberia, my people.
We do, Mr.
Social
Minister.
media will destroy Liberia.
Yeah,
You people have a responsibility to read more about Liberia.
absolutely.
So when you talk about corruption and the three-person guy, the Americans say, okay, we accuse the three individuals. It means that the whole country corrupt now.
No,
Allegedly.
but
Yeah, man.
Mr.
Allegedly.
Minister, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
let
Go
me,
ahead there. Let's talk.
yeah, Mr. Minister, we're not talking about somebody down the
Remember,
street. We are not talking about somebody
we're not
down
in
the
the
street.
real world.
Yeah, Mr. Minister.
Until people, look, what we've done, let me say this much to you, Moses.
Sure,
and
like
Volcano.
yeah.
This is the first time. Give me a chance. Give me a chance. I know you will come back to me. I'm
But
prepared
man,
for
we
the
got
night.
to
No
go
problem.
ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Minister.
Well,
Let me
because
say this much.
I want you.
Yeah.
I want you to pause before you say this much. People think that we're being lenient with you here tonight, but I don't know how much. I think it's the same perception, Mr. Minister. They want us to choke you. They want us to fight with you, and instead, I guess that's what it is. Because no matter how we're asking the tough questions, we're bringing you to some of the issues that
The very issues
are not
that we are addressing,
easily
yeah.
talked about, and you're addressing them. They still want us to fight with you,
You
so
say, oh,
we'll fight.
we're not
So
asking the
go
tough
ahead,
questions,
Mr. Minister.
Yeah, go
Make your
ahead.
point.
Look, let's say this much. And for Ghana, I agree because a lot of Liberians, maybe perhaps, and that's why some of us we have not invested a lot, and we talked earlier about not investing as a government in communication. That's why the naysaying out there in the diaspora about the very country is so rife as opposed to the real issues. I'm not saying Liberians and OSS or everything here is good, but I'm saying most of the, and I would say, and I would qualify it, 90% of the things that are in the diaspora about Liberia are based on falsehood or very little truth. But let me go back to the fight against corruption.
Mm-hmm.
People say, oh, when people are accused by people, they go to the LECC, the LECC say the people are indicted, then government can go to court. What did the old law say? Honor President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who established, and mind you, let me make this point. I was always part of the former administration, and I respect the effort of President Sirleaf because I know what she did to bring this country to where she left it. So I want to make that caveat. But what did the old law say? They said when the LSCC investigates John Brown and find out that John Brown is culpable of corruption, it sends its report to the Ministry of Justice for validation of the evidence, so that the Ministry of Justice, which is the prosecutorial arm of government, takes that to court. That's the old law. The Ministry of Justice, the old law says, has 90 days to evaluate that evidence before it acts. Most often a time, there has been a difference of opinion between the Ministry of Justice and the LECC. So how matters will go to court, I don't know. Then you see the government stopping people from going, the people hiring to go to court. So this government came and said, you know what? Regardless of all the noise, we changed the law. We will give the LECC not just prosecutorial powers, but police power to arrest and detain people who are culpable. At the same time, who believe they are culpable. At the same time, we give whistleblowers protection. We got a new principle to protect them. And then when we take away the strong arm of the executive on the LECC and its members of its board of commissioners and all that stuff. So the president no longer can fire and hire and all that kind of stuff. What more can a government do in terms of showing commitment to corruption, as opposed to anything else? Then you say something. We cannot just arbitrarily grab people because on the basis of yes, say, oh, the man, he paid too much, so paying or paying. Isn't it the same like Grandpa would say with
Leggy,
if
the man had no money, he built 2 houses within less than a year.
Lifestyle audit.
Yeah, man.
So have you done that?
Listen,
so the point here, Volcano.
Yeah.
So the point here, Volcano. Banks are giving loans. Banks are giving loans.
So no collateral.
I start working now. I go to bank. Something.
So no collateral, Mr.
The
Minister.
law says the accuser has the responsibility to provide evidence. Without evidence, how can government go to court?
But
Moses, we got to bring the callers in because I won't.
Yeah, let me just follow up.
I'm coming now. Let me give your number so they'll call you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then you put that number to the because we're using this number where the minister is. The number to call, I will post it. For those of you who are closer to a pen and paper, is 302-494-4688. 302-494-4688. I'm going to send that number in now, and so you guys can call the number through Moses. Moses, quickly ask your question.
I just wanted to tell my friend and brother, Mr. Minister, the greatest challenge the administration is faced with is credibility. The government has credibility problem. So for everything the government does, the people don't believe in the government. That's why the government struggles. The issue of graft. A foreign senator referred to the Liberian presidency, the leadership, as an autocracy, a government of thieves. It took the United States to hold former Minister McGill and the others accountable. So with all of these things happening, then how do we boast of fighting graft? Hold for me, or Mr. Minister, someone is calling. Hello? Yeah, this is the issue room. Can you just hold for a while, please? Let the minister respond, please.
Yeah, but Moses,
Yes, hold, yeah.
you make
But
that
let the minister
legal
answer
statement
first.
subjective.
Go ahead, Mr.
I can
Minister.
sit down anywhere and I can just say, you know, I don't care what somebody thought, I believe it. So it's subjective. But
Okay.
match it against what's the reality is a whole different ballgame. So when you say the government get credibility, I don't know why, but the international community continues to deal with Liberia at different levels. Next week, the president is going to the Democracy Forum, Washington, D.C., hosted by President Obama. What more credibility can that be? So people say that in the affluence in America, based on social media posting by people, citizen journalism, which is unfettered, and I mean, which is unchecked and is biased, and make informed decisions on the basis of the wrong information. There's something that the government is credible. The president will leave from here next week to be in Washington, D.C., to be with his international colleagues on the forum of democracy. And it's a selection of leaders from across Africa, not just anything they can hurry. So what you're talking about, so there can be no better credibility between the Americans. If the government are not credible, they would select the president. We have to go there. So the naysaying has to stop. We have to look at Liberia from a positive standpoint. We're not saying we have an oasis. We have a problem. The problem that exists in our country does not exist because of today's government. It has its linkages way back to the governance ecosystem of our country. And no one administration should take that blame. People come, they deal with it, they go ahead.
Okay.
They move on.
Take the caller, Moses.
Okay, look.
End of the day,
Yeah, Mr. Minister. We have a caller online.
Open your volume.
We
it
have
to
a
speaker.
caller.
Put it
So
to speaker.
let me put the caller on so
Put it to
caller can
speaker,
ask.
Moses.
Yeah. Hello, go
Put your
ahead, sir.
speaker on. Put your speaker
Thank you
on.
very much. Mr. Minister, how you doing, sir?
Moses, your speaker. Put the speaker on the phone. Then it will be loud.
My name is DC Wilson. I call from
Okay.
Johnston, Iowa. Yes, let's put it this way. A few months ago, I heard you on Clarence
Put
Jackson's
the button.
OK FM,
Moses.
and you sounded very frustrated. You
There
were
you
not
go.
being supported, and what have you? And you also went as far as telling us your budget, that you could not work with such a
is somebody
budget.
on the line?
Nothing.
Yeah,
But now
Yeah,
today,
yeah, Mr.
you're-
Minister, that's a question for you.
But now today you have
I think you're
flipped,
the person, though.
That's what I
It
was.
appears that everything is okay
Moses,
for
you
you
gotta
at
put it.
the ministry.
That's what I did.
Moses, I'm
It
looking at
appears
you.
that
Put
everything is
the-
okay for you with
Okay.
okay with you at the ministry,
That's it.
because when you the way you sounded on OK FM, it was that you were frustrated. But now you sounding very, like everything is fine. So how do you reconcile that? Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Minister, did you hear the caller? Is Leggy there? Mr. Minister?
Did you hear me?
Mr. Minister, did you hear the caller? Hold for me, my brother.
Legend, can you hear me?
He's not
I
hearing
can
us.
hear you.
Yeah, Legend hear
Yeah,
me. Hold on. I
did-
got a question, Moses. Let me.
Okay.
He can hear me clear. Let me just give it to
You
him.
heard the question?
So yes. Mr. Minister, the caller is asking. You were on OK FM the other day, and you look kind of,
Unhappy.
frustrated and unhappy with what was happening. But tonight you sound a little more defending of the government. They don't think that you being honest here. What has changed overnight?
The issues are raised at OKFM have been addressed.
Okay.
That's the point. The issues are raised have been addressed. And thank God we raised those issues. We have meetings as a government, we can have meetings of the mind, and perhaps it led to a fruition of the fact that the Ministry of Information needed more resources to do the work that we're doing.
Good. It's good that the
Okay.
government has stepped up to the place.
Any other caller, Moses?
No, not yet.
All right. Again, the number to call here tonight is 30. Let me get that number posted. 302-494-4688. 302-494-4688. And again, the minister is poised to be here with us a little more. So we want to give you guys the opportunity. You see, y'all are putting your mouth on. I say we soft with the minister now. We give you the opportunity so y'all can come forward with him. Then you're scared to court. Mr. Minister, you see the same thing you're talking about.
Yeah. So
Yeah, but you see, and Moses,
yeah, go
I
ahead.
love the debate. Once the debate is not disrespectful of each other,
Yeah.
regardless
Yeah.
of the kind of questions one asks.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've never been grilled like this before.
Oh,
But
come
all
on,
of the
man. Let
questions
you,
you
man.
will
What are
ask
you
me are,
talking
are
about?
relevant questions about the country.
Yeah,
You know,
thank you.
and if you were here, the local media will ask us the same kind of questions. We
Okay.
go through it every day.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, perhaps one of the reasons why and perhaps again, one of the reasons why we have not been adept the way we are, because you can't keep up with the speed of social media. And every time people read something on social media, they think it is true.
Okay.
They think
It
it is
seems
true. Then they
we
run with it and they
we
form opinions about that. But
we
not
have another
necessarily true.
we
If
have
they
another
ask you
caller
relevant
again.
questions and they researching well, they will find out that most of the time, 90% of the time, the things that they read are falsehood. I got COVID. When COVID was COVID, right?
Yeah.
My death was announced, I think, about 10 times.
Oh, but
When,
why I didn't hear it?
oh,
Maybe
but I'm just telling you, Facebook. I mean, my death was announced when I was sitting at home. Didn't even have a single symptom. I was asymptomatic. Never had a single fever. Nothing.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying to you?
yeah.
To the extent my brothers and family in America kept calling every day. My man, you sure you okay? I said, but I know we're talking.
Yeah.
My
All
brother
Mr.
right.
goes to
Minister,
a gathering and
Okay.
people and my brother goes to a gathering. My brother goes to a gathering and somebody telling him, my man, you are sure you are hiding? You're
yeah.
picking, you're picking
Answer the
Mr.
other
Minister, you got a
call.
phone call.
Answer the other call and put that
Yeah.
person in queue.
Yeah, I did.
You know,
Hello.
and my brother saying, my man, are you people crazy?
Hello.
You think that or something? But that is the extent of Liberians. When they hold a certain view, and no matter what you say,
Can
it
you
is
hold
that
for
view
me,
that they
please?
carry. No, it's that view that they carry.
All
So
right.
we'll do the best we can.
Okay. We have another. We
Yeah,
have another
we have
caller.
another caller, Mr. Minister. Hold. Hello.
Yes, this is Thomas in Atlanta.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Moses, you got to
I
put
just
that
had a
phone close
question
to the
for the minister.
microphone.
When was
What
the
I
last
done?
time?
It's not
When was
coming
the
through
last time the
loud.
government
But
had
then I don't know what
an
to do, Rob.
Listen, no, Moses, the phone, look at me. The phone port from this point, not in front of it, is here. It's at the butt. Trust me on it.
Okay. Hello.
Yes, Moses. This is
There
Thomas
you
in
go.
Atlanta. How you doing?
Yeah, go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah, I just had a quick question for the minister. When was the last time the government had a quarterly cabinet meeting?
Mr. Minister.
Mr. Minister, the caller is Thomas Awaji from Georgia. He wants to know when was the last time the government met in cabinet meetings?
Cabinet
Quarterly,
meeting. Yeah.
whether monthly. We don't hear
A
about these
quarterly
things, Mr.
cabinet
Minister.
meeting.
Okay.
The government meeting cabinet meeting, the last cabinet meeting of 2022 was in November. We deliberated on the issues of our international aid and how we're going forward this year we will deal with these things. You know, President Weah is not one of such persons who like meetings just for the sake of meetings.
Hmm.
If there are issues concerning certain sectoral ministries and agencies, he calls them in and they deal with it at that level. So it is not a cabinet, it's not a cabinet meeting style for a holistic approach where everybody, leadership comes with different styles. So people think that just for the fact that, everybody go sit down around the table and talk means a cabinet meeting doesn't necessarily suffice.
So,
The
Mr.
president
Minister,
meets with
Mr.
yeah.
Minister, the president doesn't like to meet the press in a formal situation now. The president can't hold cabinet meeting in the form of Mr. Minister. What does the president do now? What?
No,
ahead.
bro.
Yeah, make it clear.
Eruptible.
Yeah, make it clear.
Eruptible. Let's be clear here.
Okay, make it clear. Because I don't know who's one but Mr. Minister, quickly before you come in, the president is good at going on or to Folklore Clone Church and preaching. The president is good at going in studios to make music. But so when it comes to the national issues now, what we know, our own way that the president is also be meeting with the press, the president will be holding cabinet meetings, addressing the nation, often then wait for 1 year to pass before you come. Let all Liberian men win now, Mr. Minister. Tell us that one. Explain it for us.
Thank you. This is not your traditional political style president. One must understand. George Weah is not your traditional political style president. Everybody comes to the table with the different ball games. When I went to LBS, Mr. Snetter had a style. He was meeting the directors and everybody every Monday. I said, no, I created my own style. I said I would meet the staff on the directors and my deputies on a need-to-know basis, on a weekly basis, depending on what I thought was necessary. So leadership comes with different style. It doesn't necessarily mean you don't have a hands-on approach to dealing with what's going on. That is the answer to that question. So Liberian people used to president go every day, call, everybody got meeting, president go there. But the president meets with different segments. If it has to do with electricity, all the people involved with electricity will go to that meeting. If it has to do with the economy, all the people involved with the economy will go to that meeting. How to do national security, all of the people go to the national security meetings. Those are meetings that are still considered sectorial, but yet the cabinet and major decisions are made for the running of the government. We don't all have to meet in one big room. Then you say, yeah, then we put press people there and all that stuff.
Okay.
Same when the president comes out. I just told you that the president comes out, he meets with the press people, he briefed the press people. What's stopping any press man from asking the president any question he wants to ask? Does he have to go to a podium at the parlors of the executive mansion and say, all the people, all the questions you ask me today, y'all ask me? President briefs the nation on the basis of what he believes are of national importance. Is how he held so many national addresses. Not just on his own.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. We have another call for you.
For me, it's more form than substance.
Okay, let's get a caller.
What I'm talking about is more form than substance.
Okay.
Let's get a caller.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. We have a phone call for you. Go ahead, caller.
Wilson from Johnston, Iowa. Could you please tell us when the president of Liberia will be coming to the United States formally for an official visit?
Is that a question? Hold on, Moses.
Yes.
Is that a question?
Yes,
Mr. Minister, the caller is asking, when will the president of Liberia be invited on an official visit to come to the White House? Not in the context of a conference or what have you, an official visit by the American President Joe Biden. Any inclination?
So ask the caller, are we supposed to determine when President Joe Biden will ask?
Legend, man.
That's basic. Are we supposed to ask? That's why I say let's leave the form and let's deal with the substance.
Okay.
I mean, let's leave because these are cosmetic issues. They're real issues. If the president America remains our greatest ally. The president of Liberia was just in the company of the president of the United States. He's coming to Washington, D.C. next week. I just said to you, he's coming to Washington, D.C. next week.
Okay.
So, what do you want?
So, Mr. Minister, let me ask you this question quickly.
Normally, leaders in the world crave to meet the president of the United States. What are we talking about? President Salif, in all of 12 years, met President Obama only once in an official visit. Once.
I know.
What are you talking about?
Go ahead.
So let's leave the substance. Let's leave the form and deal with the substance.
Yeah,
Okay.
Moses has a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So
If the president doesn't meet the president of the United States, does that stop the relationship between the two countries?
of course not.
Go ahead, Moses.
Yeah. So, Mr. Minister, let me take you back to the information ministry.
I,
What is the
I think we have
state?
Moses again. I
Moses, you
lost
gotta
contact with Moses.
project. The man said
Yeah,
he can't
quickly.
hear you.
Do you hear me, Mr. Minister? Are you there?
Please, Volcano, repeat Moses' question for me, though.
Okay, go
I'm
ahead.
trying
Just
to
Okay.
ask
get
the
Oh,
question,
is
Moses.
he hearing me now?
Moses, he said he can't hear you. Just ask the
Oh,
question. I'll
I
repeat it.
wanna
He
why.
hearing me clearer.
Okay. Mr. Minister, my question here is what is the state of the Liberian News Agency? I noticed that you have a Lena Director General that moves around with an iPhone, and yeah, he's Director General. How functional is Lena? Because
All
I
right.
don't think the Director General should be in the street, with iPhone, like a regular reporter. Where
Uh,
is Lena today?
Mr. Minister, if you can hear me, unfortunately, with all of this going on tonight, Moses is asking, what is the status of Lena, the Liberian News Agency? Because he says he sees the Director General roving around the country on a
The iPhone.
panorama with an iPhone. I don't know how he knows it's an
Yeah,
iPhone,
you know.
and going around the place,
Yeah.
but not doing his job. So he's
He's a
concerned about
reporter, a man reporter.
the
Yeah.
the status of of Lena rather.
Lena is as vibrant as it should be in this day and age where multimedia techniques and instruments are being used to find news and to propagate news.
Okay.
The director general is not a behind the decks man.
Okay, so
He's a
that's his
field
style
man.
too. Okay.
That's his style. But it will interest Moses to know that he knows Pete Keller. He knows
Oh yeah.
the former president Sisse.
Hmm.
Those are the brains and editors at the desks of Bozat Dennis, photojournalists. All of them work for the Liberian News Agency. They're producing daily bulletins every day, distributed to national and community broadcasters across the country. When you see on the social media feed, it's just one aspect that the director general chooses to do. So Lena is in full
And I
bloom.
think in devil's advocacy here, I think Mr. Weeks is doing a marvelous job. Because some hard to reach places and issues he's bringing to public's attention, and I think he should be applauded in that light, even though he could be doing
I
other
couldn't
things.
agree. I couldn't agree with you less because most often in time, this white collar journalism thing, that the director of journalism, he's not supposed to be out there, but he's a hands-on guy. He
Hello?
wants to be out there. At the same time, he's doing his administrative duties. But I just name you the core of the quality of the editorial team and the Liberal News Agency. They're still producing. You can get
So
them better.
But what Moses is saying
so
here,
so, so let me
Moses,
get
yeah,
let me
but
get
he can't
asking
hear you.
quickly.
I know what you wanted to say.
Yeah. How
Moses,
many sub offices
I'm
of
coming up.
Lena do we have in the country? Yeah.
Moses is also saying, Mr. Minister, that maybe Mr. Weeks is misplaced. He should be at LBS. That was the first thought. The second thing is now, how many substations does Lena have across the country?
Yeah.
Lena has and never had a substation. Lena has correspondence
Correspondence, I
like
meant to say,
LBS
Yeah.
sorry,
across.
Offices. Yeah.
correspondence.
Offices. Yeah.
So,
Lena has correspondence like LBS across the country.
Okay.
All counties, I think Lena has at least two correspondents in almost all of the 15 subdivisions of our country. In fact, we're finding funding now to even give them better equipment and everything to continue to improve their capacity, train them, to give them equipment to be able to send out messages to Liberia. So yes, Rome wasn't built in a day's time. But
Okay.
Lena is full bloom. Trust me. If there's one government institution that's doing utmost well, it's the Liberian News Agency.
so what do you make of maybe sending Mr. Weeks to LBS?
That is the prerogative of the appointing authority of the president, not me.
Okay. All
So
right.
I was thinking that the director general is misplaced. You know.
Okay. So, Mr. Minister, we're pushing now toward elections. How prepared How prepared is the Liberian government with regards to support to the National Elections Commission, the international community? What do you know? What can you tell the Liberian people tonight that with all the existential fear and concerns around how the census went, they are foreseeing that similar will happen with our national elections campaigning, free people being free, oppositions being free, and all of that. What type of climate can you preamp and the support at this point?
Regardless of our diversity in our politics, the elections will pass on free, fair, and transparent. President Weah stood at the podium where he briefed the nation through the people's deputies at the national legislature and at the national legislature. He committed in front of the people's deputy as well as the international community that under his watch he will deliver free, fair, and transparent elections as well as accepting the results thereof, regardless of what it will be. Because of this unfortunate situation, and I will add sadistic situation about the loss of life of the little Shelu Musu, no one should think that this country is not safe. This country is safe. People are going about on a daily basis all across Liberia. There's no country free of crime. Prior to this, we hadn't had a single incident of anywhere reported in the last 18 months. The politics we can play it, and people can say, oh, people are dying mysteriously. That's politics. Let them play the politics. But the truth of the matter remains that the ordinary people know they go about the daily basis across our country every day, free of intimidation. The people call on the radio, the media express themselves in any and sometimes over the board ways, so to speak. Nobody troubles anybody. We all go to sleep. We all enjoy ourselves. We all disagree to agree. We know that we want to build on our democratic credentials and make sure that come October, we hold our vote. It is credible, it is peaceful, it is transparent and democratic, and we make gains on our credentials and we'll move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. I thought it was a somber night. We had great conversation here. We were able to, touch on most of, not everything, because Liberian man is never satisfied. You've made a sacrifice to be with us tonight. I'm sure the time now is about probably around 2 in the morning, 2, 3 almost. And that's a lot of sacrifice. For people who don't know tonight, I think the minister came here to rather have this conversation. Unfortunately, we had some technical issues. He had to come through with audio. But overall, we want to thank you. Usually in journalism, we always say, any final word?
and Volcano and Moses.
Well, they got a news for us.
Particularly say Moses. He's been incessant. He's been on my back.
Very, very, very
incessant. Yeah, Moses being on my back. And he woke me up with a very strong message to me. And then I called him and I said, Moses.
He said, my man got a thought.
Finally, let's do this interview. Let me say the government side of the story.
Yeah.
And then we had this chat, and I say, I'm open to all of the different issues. But thank you, Volcano and Moses, for what you do. Let's hold we who are public officials feet to the fire. The only thing I say, you guys out there are busy. and most of the time you have very scanty information. Sometimes it's good to do a little more research before coming to the kinds of conclusions that are drawn. Because listening to some of the preambles before the questions asked will tell me it is based on what's out there as opposed to what's really the truth. And it's understandable, no doubt about it. I'm not saying this country, doesn't have a set of challenges. And I'm not saying the administration is all the best of this world. But I'm saying also too, this administration is not the worst, will never be the worst, and we are contributing positively. The country that President Shelley delivered to George Weah is not the country that you see. We're moving progress. We're making progress. We're making from $400+ million today. We have doubled domestic revenue to $782+ million. That's not denigrating. That's not downwards. It's upwards. We have improved our domestic revenue capacity. We're not saying white people money. We're saying people are paying more taxes because we've digitized taxes. We've reduced inflation. We've reduced the tariff rate of current. We put 49,000 persons in the last 3 months on a national grid to receive current in Monrovia, its environs, and upcountry. What people talking about? We're building more roads. We're building schools. We're improving JFK, the first dialysis center ever in the history of this country. The trauma unit has been improved. We send more doctors abroad to specialize. They're coming back. And somebody told me, said, nothing has happened yet. We can talk about it another time. Let's go to the specifics. That's why I always say, let the real debate be had as opposed to the naysay and the name calling and the person say the person do that.
So, Mr. Minister, you just opened a small can of worm here. All of these positive things you're talking about, and I'll have to do it as an advocacy for your workers at the Ministry of Information who were protesting on a monthly salary of $45. Is that not coming from your workers? Is that lies? I just want to know that why you close up on this, because I just thought to add this in.
No, Volcano, we inherited, like most ministries and agencies, a wage bill that some of the people during the harmonization process didn't get, harmonized, so to speak. Because I understand, for my ministry, let me say this much. The issue is simple for my ministry. Most of the people who you see under the threshold were contracted workers that were brought on board after the people had done the analysis of the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs, and Tourism. As I speak to you on today's date, quote me on record, they have been, this February, they've all been brought on board and brought up to above the minimum wage bill.
So what would be the average salary at the Ministry of Information now?
What's the average salary now?
At the Ministry of Information.
The government average salary is $150.
Okay, great.
The minimum wage bill is $150.
Okay,
that's good. Okay.
So
thank
for
you,
all
Mr.
of you
Minister.
listening tonight and watching, the minister said it is $150 for the month for the average employee
at the Ministry of Information.
I can be probably a janitor or security man, and it goes from there up into the different layers. But yes, just wrap up. Sorry, I just thought to throw that in because when you were talking about,
no, it was necessary.
Yeah,
I mean, it's always necessary to speak about these things. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
We're open for more. We're open for more of such discussions. Maybe perhaps let's do this thing every month.
Yeah.
My man, we are open. Next time I'll improve on my technology from my end. So it makes it even better for us to interact with more and more people, and we'll talk about issues. I don't shy away from the issues. The only thing I say, it should not be based. It should not be, insulting and disrespectful.
No,
absolutely.
I mean, we can disagree to agree. Yeah, let's respect each other's, let each other's opinion and move forward.
And Mr. Minister, that's one of the things we prize ourselves on here in the issues room. We discuss the contemporary issues, but within the framework of respect. That is why we encourage our viewership, irrespective of how dissenting they can be. Like you said, you kind of like it from that perspective, but yet it's important for us to be civil and respecting of each other, and we try to encourage that. We don't want people come here and making comments of vulgarities in the context of spewing out insults to our guests. We don't encourage that. I'd rather be in the Bible where it says where two or three are gathered than to have 10,000 people and everybody cussing, the guests. Yeah, we try
Yeah.
not to encourage that, irrespective of how they see what you're saying here tonight. Some people are saying, "Oh, you've been lying a whole lot. You're trying to save your job and all of that."
But
Uh,
it's obvious,
but
you would
that,
disagree.
that that's the view of the views rather of the people, and it has to be respected. Only you can make that clarity of who you're doing now. So a lot of folks said we're being too friendly with you. You're lying too much. You're saving your job. Maybe we are not increase your salary, all kinds of stuff. So I will leave that one to you. Answer
But
that and we'll
No,
let you
I
go.
mean, I mean,
but
I can understand people's views, and perhaps maybe is if these very people were to meet me in a town hall,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
they will see it different. They will see it differently and will share differently. But
that's
that is
true.
the right of people to speak, and that's what democracy is all about. They don't
Yeah,
have to necessarily agree with me. But like I say, if something I have said here tonight is untrue, let them go and verify. That's all we do.
Yeah.
Verify. What am I saying is wrong? That's all you're saying. They will not
yeah.
take over and meet the inflation at 30% when the rate was 200 plus US dollars. I mean, 200 Liberian dollars to one Liberian dollar today. Is it not 150, 160? Is it something to lie about? What we're saying is reasonable. That's why I always say, I don't care what you say about something. If somebody wants to fix their mind on something being negative, they'll always be negative. But that's part of democracy. We all got to tolerate each other. We can say what we want to say what you want to say about me. I'm not an angel, but I will not come to the public space and lie on my reputation. I say what I know, and I say the truth. Thank you, Moses. Thank you for coming.
And and Mr. Minister,
I'm
turn
always
before you go.
available to come back
Uh,
for
yeah,
questions.
Legend, Mr. Minister, are you there? Legend, is he there?
Making hear you, Moses. We said if
Yeah. Okay.
say
I
what you
just
want to say, I will say it.
quickly. Okay. So look, Mr. Minister, before you go, I just want to say thank you so much for accepting our invitation. It was a pleasure having
But can I
you.
not
Our
just do this?
doors,
If they're making hear you, let me just
yeah,
tell you, man, thank you,
our
Moses.
our doors are open, and if
Moses, let me just
yeah,
do it because then what?
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Leggy, we want to thank you so much for the opportunity to have finally got together tonight. It's been long coming. In the inception of the issues room, when you were here, we had hoped that you were to come that night, but things didn't work out, and so we finally got you. And again, we want to applaud you for giving us the opportunity to bring you periodically as we traverse toward the elections. It would be a great thing for us to do this because as the national spokesman, the country spokesman, whether people believe you, like you said, or not, the fact that we can hold these conversations is it pays, it brings value, and it pays enough, you know, uh, for our audience to understand where you coming from, where the government stands, and so forth. So we say thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight, because I don't call this an interview, I call it homecoming, that we were able to come back together. Why it is true that everyone not going to be satisfied. It's the democracy of journalism. So again, like you said, there's a lot, and I like the title you use, citizen journalism. And so uh, it speaks to how people will have dissenting views, and we can understand from that perspective. So thank you so much.
All the best, guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Moses. I appreciate you guys and for giving me your platform, your widely listened to platform.
Thank
All the
you.
best to you, and I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Minister.
Good
All
night.
right. Good night.
Okay. Bye.
He made a lot of sacrifice, Moses, to be here this time of the night. Can you imagine? It's 10 o'clock now. We've gone about 3 hours and 9 minutes now.
Plus
We
2 o'clock in Liberia.
yeah, we can break through all of the different things. I'm not even sure if I have the fortitude or the strength to do. What type of country is this? Let me hear from the audience. Moses, no, we got a few we can go. Audience, do we want to talk about what type of country is this? At least a few. Do we want to? I want to hear someone saying yes. We got at least another 5 or 10 minutes to go. Do we want to do what type of country is this tonight? Can I get a yes from the audience? Rams Norton, you seem not satisfied. Can I get a yes? Thomas Awaji, what type of country is this? All right, I got one.
Okay.
What type of country is this, Moses? When a man, his wife, his 5 children, all of them on one motorbike. The whole family is transported on one motorbike.
That creativity, my man.
Only in Liberia. But not only that though. They got a dog. They got a dog tied to the back of the motorbike. They got 2 chicken, and then they got a basket. And then they got a basket. They got a basket. They got a basket on top of the head of the what you call it?
The husband.
The mom. Then the young baby on the back.
Yeah, and they were playing music.
And then the driver or the
is
rider,
husband.
the rider is almost on the steering bar. They ain't here like this. They ain't fighting the balloon.
And when they got a husband sitting, he's in the bike.
The husband sitting the woman sitting between the rider.
husband.
Yeah, the husband is on the back, but the whole family on the motorbike.
Wow.
What
What type of country is this, eh?
Yeah.
What type of country is this? When you lost a relative of yours in a brutal way, and then the party chairman come and say, we want autopsy.
All right, Moses, you don't seem to have the vigor, but I like this one. Thomas Awaji said, what type of country is this when an adult has never had a job? And Thomas Awaji,
that's a key word. Yeah.
No. I mean, I have people in my family who never worked in their lives. And I wonder, and I said,
it's not by choice.
Yeah, in Liberia, there are people who grown up from child to adult,
no job,
to an old man, and has never had a job in his whole life. That's a good one. What type of country is that?
Country is this?
So how do you contribute to the building of the country? Where is the contribution from taxpayers?
Well, you're dependent, my man.
Yeah.
What type of country is this? What type of country is this, right? What type of country is this when they give you 25 pounds, what 25 kilo, 25 kilo, you tell me, Volcano, where is it? The little bags, right?
Yeah.
The little bags, 25 kilo,
Yeah.
What type of country is this that somebody can buy a vote with 24 kilo? You know,
yeah. What type of country is this when you can put a whole cow on top of a motorbike? What type of country is this? Only in Liberia. Only in Liberia you can put a whole cow. I saw the Madigo man from cow factory. You were moving the cow from cow field to cow factory.
On the bike?
Yeah, on the bike. From cow field. Because cow field is in Duboro. He put a cow on the back and he taking it to the slaughterhouse at cow field.
Boy, he's sitting there now, my man.
But what type of country is this? I saw the guy holding a bag of cement on top of his head.
He's in that water motorbike.
2 bags of cement. the way
on the
cement heavy.
motorbike.
The way cement heavy, the man only 2 bags of
They
cement
on the bike.
So
Whatever country is it?
so that is the minister was saying the people too free. But Mr. Minister, I understand the people too free. So there will be no rule of law. Then you say it's not rule of law, it's social issue, Mr. Minister. Whatever
Well,
country is this?
The people are held in bondage.
He said people are in bondage.
Yeah.
Whatever country is this? When the entire city is filled with zinc shacks.
Thomas are watching. Thomas my chaos now.
So our man Johnson Colley said, what about country is there when Texas is converted into pickup?
Whatever country is there, we got my 5 mattresses over the Texas.
Ramsnoddy said, whatever country is there where women only protest for special people? Yeah, that's true.
They're pick and choose.
Yeah, they pick and choose. The other time they protested was when the first lady and that book issue, right? The book of Asif Atuba and Emmanuel Clark. Then they just protested again. Whatever country is this when you can turn a taxi into a pickup? When you see some of the things that happen in Liberia, it's a stark contrast to what the conversation is actually is.
Mama, when you saw the photo I sent you, right?
Yeah.
Look how that does it. With mattresses. Whatever country is this, my man, he can only get 1 meal a whole day.
But whatever country is this when you can go to bed hungry for days? Whatever country is this?
No hope for the future, my man. Whatever country is it? Whatever country is this, my man? When they say you got paid today, it's a big celebration.
We don't want. Whatever country is this when you eat the fish from the river you poo in?
Yeah, you know what I have been so anyway.
Oh God.
The people use the drainage. The people that use the drainage to throw their poop. They are seen that they go there to fish.
Whatever country is this, when the president refers to the drainage as the gutter, he say, you don't put your bag in the drainage. The gutter in the drainage. Whatever country is this?
Yeah.
Moses, whatever country is this when the mayor said you wrote the letter, but you did not include it. Then somebody did a skit, right? They did a skit, and then Chief Zanzan Kawa, then he turned around and said, that country correct, and then the people say, that English correct, the people say, yeah. That was funny. Whatever country is this?
Whatever country is
this? The city mayor says, you did not include it.
Yeah. Whatever country is it? When the attorney generals say there are people in the street carrying weapons, then the police director come and say, no, that's not true.
Whatever country is this when electricity come on and the whole community celebrate? And that's
the mundane thing. Oh yeah, that's the mundane thing.
When current time you hear the people yelling, general say something. Johnson Collins said, whatever country is this when a 45-year-old man is the youth chairman of the community in Ukraine?
They already going a grave. He's a youth chairman.
The man 45-year-old youth chairman in the community. Oh God, he got okay on the neck. I'm says, whatever country is this when the president says he's no longer a pastor but a rabbi now? They call him president, we are rabbi.
So, man, I thought him for being a rabbi now. Eh?
The next
Yeah,
time he will be a pope.
yeah.
Oh God.
Oh my God! What type of country is this? What type of country is this? What type of country is this, man?
What type of country is this when people openly poo on the beach with no control?
Yeah.
Openly. I mean, openly. You see them squatting. You got pictures all on the internet. Then people say this too is Liberia.
Yeah.
What type
What
of
type of
country is
country
this,
is this?
Moses?
Yeah. What type of country is this? When the woman will have about 5 boyfriends. She said
Each
they want
boyfriend for different thing.
the other man will pay my rent. The other one here will buy my clothes.
and
Everybody got a son, man.
they won't fix my hair. They won't buy my scratch card.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh my God.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I needed my laughter. I got
Yeah.
it. We'd like to say thank you, Moses. Just need
Yeah.
that call, my man. Just need that
Yeah.
call. Someone why
What
you
type
just
of
put
country?
one more in. What
Yeah.
type of country is this when
Yeah.
you get out of your car to piss in the middle of the traffic?
Yeah, when you're kind piss in the middle of the street,
Traffic.
in the middle of the traffic, can you imagine, my man?
I mean,
Everybody passing by you, urinating seriously, my man.
you know, see, call
Yeah.
the nigga, I enjoy the guy. I like it. What type of country is this? When the finance minister D-Ho to cover who he called it borrowing initiative. Get a man to the road for money to pay salaries like digging who and cover who.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, man, that is good.
Oh man, listen, folks,
Yeah,
we had a good time,
it
irrespective of
was.
the missed
The
views about
technical glitches and all
how
of that, but I think it was a good
everything
show
went.
with the minister. Yeah.
Yeah, everything went. I thought that it was a good conversation overall. The minister said that you have the right to your opinion, and I will say the same. I mean, we can't put words in his mouth. Like
Yeah, but
Yaga
he did.
Koluba said, "Are you talking for me?" They're not us talk for the minister. We ask him the questions he
He
needed to
answered
address,
them.
and we cannot choose for him how to address those questions. Uh, and even if we took him down the gutter, if he stayed the way he wanted to address them, it didn't make any difference. We've seen interviews of even President Sirleaf, who told the journalist he was showboating when the guy was
Yeah.
cornering her for the issue of corruption with her son.
Yeah.
If you've seen that interview, to the point that she's like
She got
wanted to quit,
upset.
and she wanted to quit the interview.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's
man.
not about how you view things. I think if you have an open mind, we are professionals, and there's a way we ask questions, and we ask those questions from a poignant perspective.
Yeah,
But we can also choose for how the interviewee will
we
answer.
answer.
And by
No,
me
we
finding
just our
putting
job
and
is just
pushing
to ask
off the cliff,
questions.
it doesn't change the fact that he's gonna answer the way he wants to. But I thought overall it was a great show. It was a very, very good conversation. Thomas Awaji threw the last one in is he says here actually where is it at? I'm losing.
I'm out.
Okay. What type of country is this when all the fire trucks are sitting on flat tires?
Thomas, Thomas, no play.
I mean, inform.
They know the terrible, man.
Let's take the last one. Let's take the last one from Ram.
Yeah,
What,
right.
what type
What
of
kind of
station is this
is this?
one? Is
When
this
one
one
journalist?
journalist don't know how to turn the cell phone to mic? Oh, everybody know.
You're right, man.
Now, Moses said it. I kept
They're
telling you,
messing with
Moses,
me.
when you put in the phone to the mic, you don't hold it like this. The speaker of these phones, they are at the butt or to the top. So you put it a long way, not like this. That's what I was trying to tell you. I think he just
Yeah,
trying
but
to.
so Ram, you're right. Thank you.
He said Moses.
Yeah,
He
I
said
was
Moses was
talking to you.
fighting. You were
Yeah,
fighting
Muslim
to
will
get
fight you.
fighting to get the phone situated. But overall, I thought it was good, man. So we say thank you so much, guys. We'll be back here on the Friday. Moses,
Yeah.
anything else? Let's call it
Yeah.
a night, my man.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for
All
the
right.
show. Yeah.
All right.
All
Good
right.
night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night. All you wonderful people. Good night.